Chapter 390. Just as Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao opened their mouths to warn him, Ji Tianqing had already retreated 10 meters away. Swoosh! He brushed past a few black-robed men and narrowly avoided the siege of more than 10 black-robed men. Although a few black-robed men's sharp claws had scratched his robe and hair, he was not injured. However, he was not injured. There were only a few cuts on his white robe. Only then did Ji Tianqing see clearly that there were a total of 16 black-robed men. Moreover, the black-robed men's height, appearance, and aura were exactly the same. It was extremely strange. Swoosh! 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 The 16 black-robed men's attacks all missed, but they immediately reacted and turned around to pounce on Ji Tianqing in unison. Their speed was even faster than before. This time, Ji Tianqing was already prepared. He immediately activated his majestic true essence and released 3 golden sword rays. He performed the first move of the flying star sword technique. Thousand Feather Blade. The 3 golden sword rays carried a sharp and domineering aura and attacked those black-robed men as fast as lightning. Swoosh! 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 The 3 sword rays split into 9 and stabbed more than 200 black-robed men in the blink of an eye. The dazzling sword rays covered an area of 20 meters and illuminated the dark sky. Under the illumination of the golden light, Ji Tianqing finally saw clearly that the eyes of the black-robed men were filled with emerald-green flames. His body suddenly shook, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. These black-robed men are not human. At the same time, 6 black-robed men who were not covered by the sword rays pounced over like ghosts and launched a siege without fear of death. Ji Tianqing was about to perform the flying star sword technique to block the attacks of the 6 black-robed men. At this time, Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao had already rushed to his side. Long Yunxiao raised his hand and slapped out a huge flaming palm, bursting with the power to destroy the heaven and earth, slapping towards the black-robed men. With a muffled bang, 2 black-robed men were hit by the flaming palm and burned on the spot. In the blink of an eye, the 2 black-robed men were burned to ashes and scattered on the grassland. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was even more certain that these black-robed people were not humans, but more like ghosts or puppets. At this moment, Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao attacked at the same time and smashed the 4 black-robed men who had rushed to the front. After the 4 black-robed men collapsed, they spontaneously combusted and turned into black ashes that scattered across the grassland. In the blink of an eye, only 10 of the 16 black-robed men were left. The 10 black-robed men were stabbed by the 1,000-feather blade over 1,000 times, and their fates were too horrible to endure. 6 of the black-robed men were smashed into pieces by the sword light. After a burst of fire, they turned into black ashes. Among the 4 surviving black-robed men, one of them seemed to be afraid of the battle. With a swoosh, he dived into the grass and disappeared. The other 3 black-robed men did not know the difference between life and death, and rushed towards Ji Tianqing without any regard for their lives. The result was obvious. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunxiao casually attacked and smashed the 3 black-robed men into pieces and burned them to black ashes. 15 of the 16 black-robed men were destroyed, and only one of them escaped without a trace. Ji Tianqing and the others did not chase after him. They lowered their heads to examine the black ashes on the grass, hoping to find clues from them. After a while, Yun Yao spoke first. There's no need to investigate. The 16 black-robed men just now are not living people. Someone used some kind of secret technique to create puppets with wraiths. Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao revealed a look of understanding. I see. No wonder they were so ghastly. During the battle just now, Ji Tianqing used his spiritual consciousness to investigate the black-robed men's backgrounds. Unfortunately, he did not detect the black-robed men's strength and realm. He only detected the ghastly ghost chi. He frowned and said with a serious face, I don't know who wants to deal with us. They used wraiths and secret techniques to create puppets, and they all have the strength of the 7th level of the Tong Xian realm. Long Yunxiao's face was also a little gloomy. He shouted in a dignified tone, it's most likely the damned demon clan. They found out about our whereabouts and set up an ambush here. I didn't expect that the cruel and bloodthirsty demon clan would not only cause trouble in the Central Plains, but also in the territory of the human race. Yunyao pondered in silence for a while. Then, she shook her head and said, "It's too early to make a conclusion now. This kind of secret technique to create puppets with wraiths should be some kind of incantation. Not only the demon clan is proficient in it, but some evil sects and forces also know how to use it." Ji Tianxing nodded in agreement and said, "Senior sister is right. This is a key clue. We can investigate from the people who are proficient in incantation." Yunyao also nodded and said, "Fortunately, there are very few people who are proficient in incantation. As long as we investigate with all our strength, it shouldn't be difficult to find the truth." Long Yunxiao could not help but feel a little jealous when he saw the two of them echoing each other and maintaining the same point of view. However, he did not show it. He quickly suppressed those distracting thoughts and focused his attention on the investigation and the mission to exterminate the demon clan. Not long after, night fell. Ji Tianxing hurriedly led Yunyao and Long Yunxiao to the side of the black stone tablet in the grassland. He took out the atlas badge and placed it on the black stone tablet. Then, he silently injected his true essence. The stone tablet immediately lit up with a silver light and emitted a powerful formation fluctuation. Soon, Flame Spirit City's great protective formation was activated. The scene in front of the three of them changed. An ancient black city appeared out of thin air on the originally empty grassland. The enormous city gates were tightly shut. The three of them walked together toward Flame Spirit City's gates. At the same time, in the haunted house in the western district of Flame Spirit City. Whoosh! A skinny black-robed man suddenly emerged from the ground and appeared in the dark secret chamber. Granny Ghost and the Blood Demon King had been waiting quietly in the secret chamber. When he suddenly saw the black-robed man appear, the Blood Demon King's eyes immediately revealed a strong sense of anticipation. "Granny Ghost, quickly take a look at the results." Granny Ghost's left hand formed a seal and her right hand shook the snake-headed walking stick, casting a secret spell. Suddenly, the black-robed man's ghostly fire eyes flickered violently, as if he was conveying some kind of message. Granny Ghost silently sensed for a while. Then, she gently shook her head and sighed. "Those three little bastards are quite strong." The phantom puppets could not find the results and were all scattered. As she spoke, she formed another seal and shook the snake-headed walking stick to cast a secret spell. The black-robed man suddenly twisted and turned back into a scarecrow with a whoosh. He quietly lay on the stone table. The Blood Demon King stared at the scarecrow with a look of deep disappointment. Suddenly, he saw a faint trace of black on the yellow scarecrow. "What is this?" He frowned in confusion and instinctively looked down. Only then did he realize that there was a strand of black hair on the scarecrow. He reached out and twirled the strand of black hair. He muttered to himself, "A strand of hair on the puppet's body? Whose hair is this?" Hearing this, Granny Ghost's gloomy eyes suddenly emitted a faint green light. Chapter 391. The Blood Demon Lord was a little disappointed. But when he heard Granny Ghost's words, hope rekindled in his heart. "Granny Ghost, do you have any ideas?" Granny Ghost grinned and sneered. "Hee, leave it to me." Then, she took the strand of hair and placed it on the 9-story purple pagoda. She made a hand seal with her left hand and shot out wisps of green light into the 9 souls demonic pagoda. The demonic pagoda immediately sped up and emitted purple flames. The strange purple flames wrapped around the strand of hair and kept burning. Then, a surprising scene appeared. The seemingly weak strand of hair was not burned by the purple flames and was still intact. Moreover, the black hair danced in the purple flames, and its color gradually changed. After a few breaths, the black hair turned golden and emitted a faint golden light. Granny Ghost sneered and said in a low voice, "This strand of hair is very strange. It must have been nourished by a very powerful bloodline. That kind of powerful bloodline is not something that an ordinary human can have." When the Blood Demon Lord heard her words and felt the faint special aura in the hair, his expression changed immediately. The hair did not melt in the fire? Such a miraculous power, I think only the sword god bloodline can achieve. This strand of hair must belong to Ji Tianqing. He must have fused with the Kenshin blood in the heavenly star bead to have such a powerful bloodline. At the thought of this, the blood demon lord was enraged, and his face was distorted. Damn you, little bastard. He actually got the Kenshin blood. I must catch him, devour his body and all his blood, and take back the Kenshin bloodline. The blood demon lord clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with bloodthirst. Ji Tianqing, Yun Yao, and Long Yunxiao were walking on a street in Yanling City. It was the time to light the lanterns, and the streets were all lit up. There were very few people on the streets, and only some restaurants and gambling houses were bustling with activity, making it seem lively and clamorous. Ji Tianqing and the other two seemed to be aimlessly walking around the streets and alleys, observing the city's environment. In fact, the three of them were secretly releasing their spiritual senses to investigate the aura of the demons, looking for clues. Yin Yao's heavenly spirit's sacred body was very sensitive to the auras of different races. Long Yunxiao also had a treasure that could detect the auras of the devil clan. Even so, after searching for 2 hours, the three of them were still unable to find any clues about the whereabouts of the demon race. Yin Yao and Long Yunxiao both sensed that the aura in this spirit flame city was extremely chaotic, and some areas were extremely filthy. Trying to find the hidden demons in Spirit Flame City was no different from finding a needle in a haystack. Seeing that it was already late into the night, Flame Spirit City gradually quieted down. Ji Tianqing and the other two had no choice but to temporarily stop their search. At the end of a street, under a dim tree, the three of them discussed their next plan in low voices. Long Yunxiao frowned and said, "We can't keep searching like this. Although this Spirit Flame City is not big, there are all sorts of people here, and the auras of different races are chaotic. The demons hiding in the city are very strong. Their whereabouts and auras are very well hidden. It will be very difficult to find them in a short time." Yin Yao nodded slightly and looked at Ji Tianqing. She asked, "We can't keep searching like this. We must use the curse technique as a clue and start investigating. Junior brother Tianqing, you've been to Spirit Flame City before. Do you know where we can ask for information?" Ji Tianqing answered truthfully, "There's a place in the city called the Octagon Tower. It specializes in selling information. However, it's already late at night, and the Octagon Tower is already closed. We can only ask tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows, a hint of worry in his eyes. "We're out in the open, while the enemy is in the dark. We must move quickly, lest something unexpected happens." Hearing his words, Ji Tianqing immediately had an idea. With a serious expression, he said, "Besides the Octagon Tower, there's another place where we might be able to get information. Come with me." After that, Ji Tianqing led Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao to the East City Market. The East City Market was the most prosperous area in Spirit Flame City. Even though it was late at night when there were few pedestrians, there were still many shops in the market that were open with lights on. After Ji Tianqing led the two into the East City Market, they went straight to the Heavenly Eagle Casino. The magnificent Heavenly Eagle Casino was as brightly lit as always. Countless gamblers were having a good time, and there was a constant buzz of noise. As soon as the three of them entered the main hall of the casino, a middle-aged man in black came to greet them. Ji Tianqing remembered that this person's surname was Tian. He was a deacon in the casino. He did not beat around the bush and directly told Deacon Tian the purpose of his visit. He asked to see Manager Lei. Deacon Tian also recognized him. He knew that he had won the challenge 3 months ago and met the owner of the Heavenly Eagle Casino as he wished. He had also made a fortune for the Heavenly Eagle Casino. Therefore, Deacon Tian nodded and agreed without hesitation. However, Deacon Tian only allowed him to meet Manager Lei alone. Yin Yao and Long Yunxiao had to wait in the lounge. 15 minutes later, Ji Tianqing was led by Deacon Tian to a palace in the depths of the casino to meet Manager Lei Qianjun. They had not seen each other for several months. When Lei Qianjun saw him, he could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then, he greeted him with a hearty laugh. "Little brother, we haven't seen each other for 3 months. Your cultivation has improved and your strength has increased tremendously. Congratulations." Ji Tianqing also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Manager Lei, I trust you have been well since we last met." The two of them exchanged a few pleasantries and then sat down. Lei Qianjun smiled and asked, "Little brother, is there something you want to see our master this time?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Manager Lei is indeed wise. I do have something to ask the owner. I would like to ask for some information." "Since you just want to ask for information, there is no problem. Come with me." Lei Qianjun nodded happily. Then, Lei Qianjun led Ji Tianqing to the residence of the owner of the Heavenly Eagle Casino. This time, Ji Tianqing met the owner of the Heavenly Eagle Casino in his study. The owner of the Heavenly Eagle Casino, whose hair and beard were all white, was wearing a purple brocade robe. He was sitting in front of a desk, looking through the accounts. After hearing Lei Qianjun's report, he put down the account book in his hand and turned to Ji Tianqing. He asked in a dignified voice, "Little guy, what information do you want to know?" Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and said calmly, "Owner, I would like to ask if you know anyone in the city who is proficient in incantation arts?" "Incantation arts?" The owner of the Heavenly Eagle Casino frowned as a light flashed in his eyes. He glanced at Lei Qianjun and ordered in a deep voice, "Manager Lei, you can leave for now. Guard outside the study and don't let anyone come near." Manager Lei bowed and left the study, closing the door behind him. Chapter 392. Only Ji Tianqing and the owner of the Heavenly Eagle District were left in the study. The owner of the Heavenly Eagle District frowned at Ji Tianqing and asked in a low voice, "Little fellow, why did you suddenly ask about curses? Did you run into some trouble?" "That's right." Ji Tianqing did not hide anything and explained, "My friend and I were attacked by a group of black-robed men outside Spirit Flame City. Those black-robed men were not humans but puppets formed from vengeful spirits and curses." Hearing this, the owner of the Heavenly Eagle District's brows knitted tightly together and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He was silent for a moment and looked at Ji Tianqing seriously. He asked in a low voice, "Little fellow, do you know that vengeful spirits and curses are taboo in Spirit Flame City? If I tell you that you might lose your life if you continue investigating, will you still investigate this matter?" Seeing the owner of the Heavenly Eagle District's reaction, Ji Tianqing understood that the person who used the cursed puppets to attack him must be very powerful and made the owner of the Heavenly Eagle District fearful. However, he still nodded without hesitation and said, "I will." The owner of the Heavenly Eagle District looked at him deeply and his lips curled into a playful smile. "Huh, little fellow, you're getting more and more interesting. Since you're not afraid of death, I'll give you a clue. As for whether you can investigate thoroughly and whether you'll lose your life because of this, it has nothing to do with me." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, "Thank you, owner, for granting my wish." The owner of the Heavenly Eagle District raised his brows and said in a low voice, "There are 4 districts in Spirit Flame City, East, South, West, and North. My East District and the North and South districts of the other 2 overlords are more prosperous and prosperous. There will definitely not be any demons and monsters hiding there. Alright, that's all I have to say. I have nothing else to say." With that, the owner of the Heavenly Eagle District waved his hand, indicating that Ji Tianqing could leave. Ji Tianqing memorized the owner's words and understood his meaning after pondering for a moment. "Thank you for your advice, owner. I'll take my leave now." Ji Tianqing bowed to the owner of the Heavenly Eagle Workshop and left the study. Director Lei personally sent him off and only parted ways at the entrance of the gambling house. The owner of the Heavenly Eagle Workshop was still seated in front of the table. He frowned and pondered for a moment before muttering to himself. "This kid has a connection with the ghost realm of the West City. I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch soon." At the same time, Ji Tianqing left Sky Eagle Casino with Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao. The 3 of them walked on the dark and deserted street. Seeing that there was no one around, Long Yunxiao asked, "Ji Tianqing, have you heard anything useful?" "Yes." Ji Tianqing nodded and said solemnly, "Let's go to the West District and start the investigation there." Long Yunxiao didn't ask for the specific reason and followed Ji Tianqing to the West District. An hour later, the three of them had traversed more than half of Spirit Flame's city and arrived at the Western District. It was already the middle of the night. The entire Spirit Flame city was silent and had fallen into a deep sleep. The three of them had just entered the West District when they realized that something was wrong. The three of them stopped at the entrance of an old and dirty street and looked around with solemn expressions. Under the dim night sky, the entire street was as dark as ink. Not a single light could be seen. Although there were rows upon rows of houses and buildings within a few hundred meters in all directions, they were all dilapidated. Moreover, there were no lights or signs of human habitation in those old and dilapidated houses. They were filled with a cold and deathly stillness. Yunyao frowned and said in a low voice, "This area is like a ghost town. It's filled with a cold and deathly aura and a strong demonic aura." Long Yunxiao nodded solemnly and said, "Since Yao Yao can sense a strong demonic aura, this should be the place." Ji Tianqing's sharp eyes observed the surroundings and reminded them in a low voice, "This place is very strange. Everyone should be careful." The three of them were on high alert as they walked forward. The rustling sound of their footsteps was extremely obvious in the deathly stillness of the night. Wherever the three of them passed, faint rustling sounds could be heard from the old houses and courtyards on both sides of the street. Ji Tianqing used his spirit sense to investigate and saw that many poisonous snakes, scorpions, centipedes, and all kinds of poisonous insects were crawling out of those pitch-black houses and courtyards. Not only that, but there were also some hazy white and black figures in some of the houses and courtyards. They were faintly discernible as they drifted through the houses and courtyards. If a timid person was in such a gloomy environment and saw such a terrifying scene, they would definitely be scared witless. 15 minutes later, the three of them walked along the old and dilapidated street and stopped at a crossroads. Old and pitch-black streets extended in all four directions of the crossroads. The three of them released their spirit sense to investigate their surroundings and found that the situation was a little strange. Ji Tianqing frowned and said, "Something's wrong. The streets on all sides of this crossroads seem to be exactly the same." Yunyao nodded and said, "Not only are the streets the same, but the houses on both sides are also the same. There are many poisonous insects, snakes, ants, and ghosts hiding inside." Obviously, she had also used her spirit sense to investigate those ghostly figures hiding in the darkness. Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and a playful sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said in a deep voice, "Hee hee, there's actually such a gloomy ghost town hidden in the city where the human race lives. This lord wants to see what kind of fiend or ghost dares to run rampant like this." His tone was sonorous and powerful, and his whole body faintly exuded an awe-inspiring righteous aura. It was precisely because his heavenly thunder's sacred body exuded a pure yang aura that those snakes, insects, and ghosts didn't dare to show up easily, let alone approach. Ji Tianqing looked around and observed for a moment before he found some clues. "If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid we've already entered a maze. No matter which street we go along, we'll be circling around in the maze and we'll never be able to get out." Long Yunxiao raised his hands and formed a mysterious incantation. He waved his hands and drew arcs in the air, performing a secret technique. Heavenly Thunder Heart of Five Thunders, Mysterious Secret Technique, Earth Surging Astral Fire, Heaven Holding Magic Eye. As he muttered, a purple brilliance surged between his hands. He wiped his eyes, and his pupils immediately turned dark purple. Suddenly, his eyes became deep and mysterious, and his eyes were sharp and filled with righteous aura. He looked around and immediately saw thousands of light veins faintly appearing in the night sky. They were as dense as a spider web, condensing into a maze. There were also wisps of dark green flames floating in the night sky. In the dark corners of the surrounding streets, as well as in the depths of the ground, there were countless white skeletons hidden. Even the slowly wriggling venomous snakes and insects in the houses on both sides of the street were transformed from gray skeletons and ghosts. Seeing this scene, his face suddenly changed, and he said in a serious tone, "There's indeed a maze here, and it's a heaven prime maze. The area within a radius of 1,000 meters is covered by the maze. Who knows how many skeletons and ghosts are buried in the old houses and in the depths of the ground. The other party must have expected that we would come here, so they set up this maze in advance, waiting for us to walk into the trap. Chapter 393. With Long Yunxiao's strength, realm, and status, he wouldn't care about normal dangers. For him to have such a serious expression and feel that it was very troublesome, it must be an extremely dangerous situation. Ji Tianxing and Yunyao both understood this. Their hearts also became heavy. Yunyao drew her cold moon sword. Her true essence was surging inside her body. She was on high alert, ready to launch a thunderous attack at any time. Ji Tianxing didn't have the black dragon sword, but he also activated the true essence inside his body and condensed a few rays of golden light in his palm. He was ready to release a powerful sword aura at any time. As for Long Yunxiao, he had already drawn a golden sword after observing the surroundings with his Dharma eyes. It was a heavenly origin-grade divine weapon called the Nine-Cloud Sword. The hilt of the sword was shaped like a dragon's head. The 2-inch-wide blade was flashing with faint electric arcs. The three of them stood at the center of the intersection with their backs to each other. They looked at the dark sky around them with sharp eyes. Suddenly, Long Yunxiao shouted, "Watch out, they're coming." As his voice faded, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the darkness around them. In the next moment, countless white figures appeared out of nowhere in the darkness. They flew across the night sky like a gust of wind and pounced on the three of them. Every white figure was wearing tattered white clothes. Their messy, long hair was loose. Their faces and feet couldn't be seen clearly. They didn't walk on the ground. They flew across the night sky like ghosts towards the three of them. Ji Tianxing saw clearly that these white ghosts didn't have feet or faces. They all had sharp claws that were as white as paper. They didn't have the slightest bit of vitality. They were emitting a cold aura of death. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless white ghosts swarmed out from all directions and surrounded the intersection. Some of them flew out from the depths of the street, some of them dashed out from the dilapidated houses, and some of them crawled out from the ground. There were also some exceptionally tall ghosts that crawled out of the well. In just a few breaths, more than 100 white ghosts had pounced on Ji Tianxing and his companions. They waved their claws and attacked. Swish. Swish. The specter's pale claws and long, sharp black nails pierced through the air like swords and shrieked. The three of them were besieged by numerous white ghosts, and they did not hesitate to use their martial skills to launch a counterattack. Thousand Feather Blade. Ji Tianxing released 3 golden sword auras, which instantly split into 9 and enveloped an area of 20 meters in front of him. Swish. Swish. The night sky within a radius of 20 meters was illuminated by the dazzling golden light. This area was also filled with fierce and domineering sword light. As long as the ghosts were enveloped by the sword light, they were instantly torn into pieces and turned into pieces of white bones that scattered on the ground. Yunyao formed a sword seal with her left hand and held the cold moon treasured sword with her right hand. She waved her sword and slashed out 63 rays of cold light. The sword light formed 9 plum blossoms and attacked the dozen or so ghosts. Peng peng peng. After a series of muffled sounds, many of the ghosts were killed and turned into a pile of bones. Long Yunxiao's attack was the most domineering. Purple lightning constantly surged out of his left palm, and he struck out balls of lightning with his palm. As long as the white ghosts were hit by the balls of lightning, they would let out shrill screams and burst into purple flames on the spot before turning into black ashes. He waved the 9-cloud sword with his right hand and slashed out purple lightning arcs that covered an area of 20 meters. Many of the white ghosts that were hit by the purple lightning arcs would explode and be burned into black ashes by the pure yang qi. The three of them fought together and used all their strength to fend off the ghosts that pounced from all directions. They did not dare to relax at all. Although the combat strength of the white ghosts was only equivalent to a martial artist of the 7th or 8th level of the Tongxian realm, they were not flesh and blood. They were not made of flesh and blood. They were not afraid of death and could fly in the night sky. They came and went like the wind and were very fast. These white ghosts were very difficult to deal with, and there were so many of them that it was as if they could never be killed. 15 minutes later, Ji Tianqing and the other two had killed more than 1,000 white ghosts. The ground was filled with grayish-white bones that piled up to half a person's height. Until now, there were no more white ghosts that appeared in the surrounding night sky. Only 3 exceptionally large ghosts were left. They were still flying in the night sky and fighting with Ji Tianqing and the other two. Not only were these 3 ghosts enormous, their strength was also exceptionally strong. They were comparable to a 2nd or 3rd level origin core martial artist. Compared to ordinary ghosts, the most obvious difference was that they all had a ghastly pale and hideous face. 2 balls of dark green flames flickered in their empty eye sockets. After the 2 of them exchanged over 100 moves, Long Yunxiao was the first to finish off his opponent. He relied on the heavenly lightning sacred body's pure yang qi and was completely unafraid of the ghost's sharp claws and deathly cold attacks. He slapped the ghost's chest with his palm and sent it flying. Its entire body was ignited with purple lightning flames. Taking advantage of the time when the ghost screamed and fled, he waved the 9-cloud sword and slashed out a 10-meter-long purple lightning sword light. With a bang, the ghost was cut into pieces. In the blink of an eye, the 3-meter-tall ghost was burned into black ashes by the lightning flames and scattered on the ground. At this moment, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were still fighting with their opponents. Although their combat strength was slightly higher than the ghosts, they could only injure the ghosts. It was very difficult to quickly kill or destroy them. Moreover, the 2 ghosts were constantly striking out dark green flames and spitting out black deathly cold air. It was impossible to guard against. Ji Tianqing's left arm was burned by the dark green flames, and it was numb for a long time. His entire arm was unable to exert any strength. Fortunately, his bloodline strength was strong. After circulating his cultivation technique and recuperating for a moment, his left arm returned to normal. After Long Yunxiao finished off his opponent, he immediately went to help Yunyao and killed the ghost in 3 to 5 moves. It was only at this moment that Ji Tianqing used Crimson Dragon Flash to completely kill the heavily injured ghost and turn it into bones that covered the ground. All the ghosts were killed and turned into white bones and black ashes that covered the ground. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly circulated their cultivation techniques to regulate their breathing. The fierce battle just now had consumed a lot of their cultivation techniques. Long Yunxiao looked into the darkness and hurriedly reminded them, "We can't stay here for long. Let's leave this place quickly. Otherwise, more ghosts and ghosts will attack us. Moreover, we have to investigate this formation as soon as possible and find a way to break it." Ji Tianqing and Yunyao both understood this point and hurriedly followed him to the street in the south. The 3 figures quickly disappeared into the darkness. Not long after they left, the piles of bones on the ground at the crossroads strangely gathered together. With a ka-cha sound of friction, the millions of grayish-white bones actually condensed into a huge bone dragon that was emitting dark green flames all over its body. The skeleton bone dragon was more than 20 meters long and more than 10 meters tall. It had 2 skull dragon heads and a pair of dragon wings made of white bones. After it condensed and took shape, it twisted its body a few times and flapped its white bone wings, flying in the direction that Ji Tianqing and the others had left. Chapter 394. In a dark courtyard house, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were observing the surroundings of the courtyard. Some poisonous snakes, ants, and ghosts that occasionally charged out from some rooms were easily killed by the 3 of them. Long Yunxiao utilized his Dharma eyes to observe for a moment before saying, "I've already investigated. There are the fewest ghosts hidden here, and it seems to be the foundation of the grand formation." Ji Tianqing shook his head instead and said with a calm expression, "No, this seems to be the foundation of the grand formation, but it's actually a void that was intentionally left behind by the person who set up the formation to deceive others. This heaven origin grand formation is extremely profound, and its true foundation is hidden extremely deep. Moreover, it's surely guarded by powerful ghosts and ghosts." Long Yunxiao couldn't help but glance at him when he heard this and asked, "You seem to be very proficient in the formation Dao?" Ji Tianqing didn't try to be modest. He nodded silently. In fact, he wasn't just proficient in the formation Dao. His attainments in the formation Dao had already reached the Grandmaster level. Yunyao added in a timely manner, junior brother Tianqing's attainments in the formation Dao can be called a Grandmaster, and he once broke a top-grade Heaven Origin Grand Formation before. Long Yun Zhao's brows raised as a wisp of shock and surprise flashed in his eyes. He obviously didn't expect that Ji Tianqing was so young and only at the third level of the Origin Core stage, but his attainments in the Formation Dao actually surpassed him by so much. He went silent for a moment before saying to Ji Tianqing, "Since it's like this, you're responsible for investigating this grand formation and looking for a way to break it." Ji Tianqing didn't have any objections and nodded. He thought for a moment before continuing, "Since this is a void that was intentionally left behind by the person who set up the formation, it's most likely a trap or ambush. It's better for us to leave as soon as possible." As soon as he finished speaking, Long Yun Zhao's face went grim as a wisp of cold light flashed in his eyes. "I'm afraid it's already too late." In the next moment, 4 tall and big black-robed figures emerged from a dry well in the backyard with swooshing sounds. These black-robed figures were not ghosts, but puppets formed by vengeful spirits and curses. They were much stronger than the specters. They streaked across the night sky as fast as lightning and rushed to the front yard, surrounding Ji Tianqing and the other two. Unexpectedly, not only did these puppets have ferocious and terrifying faces, their eyes flickered with dark green flames, they also held ancient and broken swords in their hands. Blue flames flickered on the blade and sword, exuding a cold aura of death, as if they were weapons from hell. The 4 black-robed puppets seemed to have intelligence. They spread out and surrounded the 3 of them. Their movements were uniform as they waved their swords and sabers, creating a sky full of blue flames. Swish! Swish! In an instant, the 3 of them were surrounded by blue flames, and the dark front yard was illuminated by the flames. "Be careful!" Long Yunxiao bellowed and took the lead in wielding the 9-cloud sword. He used the power of the heavenly thunder sacred body to launch a counterattack. His left palm shot out a fist-sized ball of purple lightning, while his right hand swung the sword, sending out purple lightning bolts that filled the sky. His entire body was bursting with a powerful pure yang energy. Instantly, violent gales blew within the front yard and swept out in all directions. Boom! A ball of purple lightning struck the black-robed puppet, blasting open a large hole in its chest, and its black robe was ignited with lightning flames. The ball of lightning descended into the corner of the courtyard, instantly collapsing half of the courtyard wall and blasting open an enormous deep pit on the ground, causing dust and dirt to spray out into the sky. The black-robed puppet suffered a heavy injury, yet it seemed as if it didn't notice in the slightest, and it pounced towards Long Yunxiao without any regard for its life. Long Yunxiao hurriedly swung the 9-cloud sword, instantly slashing out 19 violet lightning sword lights before blasting the black-robed puppet flying, and half of its body was broken. But even then, the black-robed puppet still didn't know pain, and it fearlessly pounced over once more. Long Yunxiao's brows knit tightly when he saw this scene, and his mood became even heavier. "Both of you be careful. The strength of these 4 black-robed puppets is comparable to a 7th-level Origin Core stage expert, and they're extremely difficult to deal with." Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's faces went grim, and their gazes became even more serious. The battle earlier had caused them to consume a great deal of true essence. With their current strength, it was utterly impossible for them to defeat a 7th-level Origin Core stage expert. Not to mention the opponent was a black-robed puppet, and it didn't have a body of flesh and blood, so its defense and speed were extremely formidable. Crimson Dragon Flash. Heavenly Star 5 Swords. Ji Tianqing released a 10-meter-long flaming sword light that fiercely charged towards a black-robed puppet with the might to pierce through everything. The black-robed puppet wasn't able to dodge in time and was struck by the Crimson Dragon Flash on the spot. Boom! Amidst a muffled bang, the black-robed puppet was blasted flying by the sword light. The black robe on its body burned with crimson-red flames, half of its arm was blasted into pieces, and a large hole was pierced open on its chest. But a large expanse of dark blue soul flames gushed out from its hands, and it instantly annihilated the crimson-red flames. It was even to the extent that it used its palms to clamp onto the enormous sword light, and after resisting it a few times, it actually crushed the crimson-red sword light into powder. Violent shock waves mixed with flames spread out towards the surroundings, and it blasted the surrounding houses to the point of collapsing and shattering, transforming them into rubble that covered the ground. Yin Yao's situation was practically the same as well. She swung the Frost Moon sword and slashed out 5 enormous sword lights, and it merely injured a black-robed puppet before being crushed by another black-robed puppet. The 3 of them resisted the attacks of the 4 black-robed puppets with all their strength, and they instantly felt as if they'd fallen into a quagmire and were unable to escape. 2 black-robed puppets entangled Long Yunxiao, whereas the other 2 black-robed puppets fiercely attacked Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao, and they were beaten to the point of retreating repeatedly. The 3 of them were quickly forced to separate, and their situation became more and more dangerous. Along with the battle becoming more and more intense, the dazzling brilliance of true essence illuminated the night sky, and muffled bangs sounded out without end as the violent shock waves destroyed the house to the point of shattering. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao fought with the black-robed puppets for 100 breaths of time, and they were both injured. Yun Yao was hit by a gust of black deathly cold energy, and she was sent flying a dozen meters away, falling into the rubble with blood flowing out of the corner of her mouth. Before she could escape from the rubble, a black-robed puppet had already pounced on her, and it slashed out a dozen dark blue sword lights, which enveloped the space above her head. She was about to be hit by the dark blue sword lights, and even if she didn't die, she would be seriously injured. At this moment, Long Yunxiao turned into a purple lightning and rushed over from the side, blocking in front of Yun Yao. He swung his sword with all his strength, and the sword lights filled the sky, destroying the dozens of dark blue sword lights, and saving Yun Yao in time. Meanwhile, Ji Tianqing and a black-robed puppet were fighting in the backyard. He was hit in the back by the black-robed puppet, and his whole body was enveloped by the dark blue soul fire, and he was ruthlessly smashed into a house, smashing several walls into pieces. Fortunately, when he was hit by the black-robed puppet's broken sword, a golden light shone on his back, and a golden battle robe appeared. The golden battle robe blocked the power of the slash, and he was unharmed. However, he fell into the rubble, and his body was buried by the rubble. His whole body seemed to be frozen, and he couldn't move. The eerie blue soul fire not only froze his fleshly body, but also nearly froze his soul, causing his consciousness to become muddled and blurry. At the moment of life and death, the Kenshin bloodline exploded with dazzling golden light, releasing a vast and mighty power that rushed through his body. When the dark blue soul fire met the Kenshin bloodline power, it was like ice meeting the sun, melting and disappearing instantly. In the blink of an eye, Ji Tianqing returned to normal, and hurriedly climbed out of the rubble. He was looking around for the black-robed puppet, and then he saw an enormous bone dragon standing in the rubble in front of him. It was a bone dragon with 2 dragon heads and a pair of bone wings. Its 4 eyes were dark blue soul fire, and its body was surrounded by dark green flames, giving off an extremely powerful aura. It looked down at Ji Tianqing from above, as if it was an evil spirit dragon that had walked out of hell. Chapter 395. Ji Tianqing didn't expect that a spectral bone dragon would appear out of nowhere in the courtyard and appear in front of him without making a sound. The black-robed puppet that had attacked him earlier was standing beside the spectral skeletal dragon. Its posture was stiff, as if it did not dare to move at all. Seeing this, his pupils constricted and his entire body tensed up. One black-robed puppet was already very difficult to deal with. He could not kill it even after using all his skills. Now, another spectral skeletal dragon had appeared, and its strength was obviously several times stronger than the black-robed puppet. Even if he used all his trump cards, he might not be able to defeat the spectral skeletal dragon. Just as he was thinking about how to deal with it, the spectral skeletal dragon had already raised its huge white bone claw and slammed it down with the weight of Mount Tai. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing instinctively used the shadowless step and retreated to the side as fast as lightning. Bang! The huge white bone dragon claw brushed past him and slammed into the brick ruins with a loud bang. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the houses within a 100-meter radius collapsed and turned into ruins. A huge crater was formed in the ground, and densely packed gullies appeared around it. Dust and gravel flew everywhere, whistling through the night sky and hitting the nearby houses like hidden weapons. The surrounding houses were also affected, and they were on the verge of collapse from the violent shockwave. Ji Tianqing was lucky enough to escape the attack and was not hit by the spectral skeletal dragon's claw. But he was swept away by the violent shockwave, and his body was involuntarily sent flying more than 10 meters away, falling into the ruins. Amidst the crashing sounds, he smashed into the ruins, crushing many bricks and tiles into powder. He did not care about the dust on his body, and hurriedly got up from the ruins, turned around, and tried to escape. However, the spectral skeletal dragon had already rushed to his side. It raised a pair of gigantic white skeletal dragon claws and slammed them down at lightning speed with the power to destroy heaven and earth. The two white bone dragon claws covered an area with a 20-meter radius, and they instantly slammed into the top of his head, about to crush him into powder. At this critical moment, he could not dodge at all. He could only rely on the Kenshin battle robe to resist the attack of the white bone dragon claw. However, just as he covered his body with the Kenshin battle robe and was about to be hit by the white bone dragon's claw, a bolt of purple lightning came from the side. "Get out of the way!" Following an anxious shout, the purple lightning rushed to Ji Tianqing's side and pushed him more than 20 meters away, leaving the attack range of the white bone dragon claw. Almost at the same time, Long Yunxiao's figure appeared in the purple lightning. He raised his palms with all his might and condensed two enormous purple palms with purple lightning, blocking the two white bone dragon claws head-on. Boom! Amidst a deafening muffled sound, Long Yunxiao's lightning palm forcibly blocked the white bone dragon claw. However, he was also suppressed by the peerlessly terrifying power to the point that his back was bent, and his legs had completely sunk into the ground. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing was stunned, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Long Yunxiao actually saved me at such a critical moment? He had the Kenshin battle robe to protect him. He did not need Long Yunxiao's help at all, and he would not be injured. However, he did not expect that Long Yunxiao would actually risk his life to save him. He felt both disbelief and doubt, and he could not see through Long Yunxiao's character. At this moment, Yunyao also rushed over and shouted anxiously, "Tianqing, come over quickly." Ji Tianqing saw that her face was pale and there was blood at the corner of her mouth. She was obviously injured. Moreover, the two black-robed puppets were attacking her from both sides. He quickly ran to Yunyao and joined forces with her to resist the attacks of the two black-robed puppets. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yunyao sent a voice transmission to him. "Tianqing, that's the spectral skeletal dragon. Its combat power is comparable to a powerhouse at the peak of the origin core stage. Only Long Yunxiao can deal with it." As Ji Tianqing fought with the black-robed puppets, he did not forget to look back at the spectral skeletal dragon and Long Yunxiao. He saw that Long Yunxiao was holding up the giant lightning palms, supporting the spectral skeletal dragon's giant claws. Dazzling lightning burst out from his body as he unleashed 120% of his power. He actually managed to push the spectral skeletal dragon back dozens of meters. Then, he held the nine-cloud sword with both hands and jumped 100 meters into the air. He slashed down a 100-meter-long purple lightning sword ray. 10,000 thunderbolts. The huge spectral skeletal dragon did not have time to dodge and was hit by the huge lightning sword ray. One of its wings was cut off, and countless bones flew out. Kaboom! Amidst the deafening noise, the 100-meter-long lightning sword ray slashed the ground. A 100-meter-long gully was formed on the ground, and countless cracks spread out in all directions. The dozens of houses nearby were all destroyed and turned into ruins by the violent shock wave. Obviously, Long Yunxiao was enraged and unleashed all his power. Before the spectral skeletal dragon could counterattack, he swung his sword and slashed out 3 lightning bolts that could split the sky and earth apart. The spectral skeletal dragon also raised its 2 dragon heads and spewed out blue soul fire that covered an area of 100 meters. Long Yunxiao and the spectral skeletal dragon engaged in a fierce battle that shook the sky and earth. The surrounding houses were all turned into ruins. Seeing that Long Yunxiao was not at a disadvantage, Ji Tianqing retracted his gaze and focused on the black-robed puppets. He unleashed all his power and unleashed his trump card to fight with the black-robed puppets. Water split. Mountain river smash. The 10-meter-long golden sword ray carried the power to destroy everything. It shattered the black-robed puppets into pieces and created many gullies on the ground. Yunyao also wielded the cold moon sword coldly and unleashed her trump card. Moonlight splendor. River of stars. The cold moon sword in her hand turned into a 10-meter-long moonlight sword ray and slashed at the black-robed puppets. The two of them worked together and cooperated well. It only took them 100 breaths to kill the two black-robed puppets. The two black-robed puppets completely collapsed and turned into pieces of bones on the ground. After dealing with the two black-robed puppets, the two of them didn't stop to rest. They hurried to help Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao had already beaten the spectral bone dragon until it was riddled with wounds. Its enormous body was badly damaged, and many holes had appeared. The three of them worked together to besiege the spectral skeletal dragon. They unleashed their strongest attacks and used all their power. 15 minutes later, the three of them finally shattered the spectral skeletal dragon and turned it into countless pieces of white bones. Of course, the houses and streets within 1,000 meters were also destroyed by the aftermath of the battle and turned into ruins. The battle was finally over. The three of them were temporarily out of danger. Ji Tianqing endured his exhaustion and weakness and searched carefully in the ruins. Finally, he found a formation base. The formation base was hidden deep underground, at the bottom of a dry well. It was a gloomy and cold cave. There was no danger in the stone cave. The three of them entered the stone cave and Ji Tianqing set up a defensive formation in the cave. Chapter 396. Time quietly passed in the dark, cold cave. Ji Tianqing, Yunyao, and Long Yunxiao all sat cross-legged on the ground, silently circulating and adjusting their breathing. 8 hours passed, and it was the morning of the second day. During this time, the three of them did not encounter any danger, nor were there any ghosts or puppets that attacked them. Long Yunxiao's strength was the strongest, and he was not injured. He was the first to recover his strength and end his cultivation. After that, Yunyao also ended her cultivation and opened her eyes. Long Yunxiao looked at her with a face full of concern and asked gently, "Yao Yao, are your injuries okay?" Yunyao nodded. "I've already recovered. It's not a big problem." Long Yunxiao still wanted to say something, but Yunyao had already stood up and walked out of the cave. "Son of Heaven, you stay here and protect junior brother Tianqing. I'll go outside and investigate." Long Yunxiao was startled and said worriedly, "Yao Yao, it's too dangerous outside. You stay here, I'll go check the situation." Yunyao gently shook her head and said calmly, "It's already morning outside, and the bone specter dragon has already been killed. What danger can there be? I want to investigate the aura of the demon race." "You can't help." Long Yunxiao was speechless, but he could not persuade her. He could only warn her, "Then you must be careful. If there's any danger, immediately retreat." Yunyao responded and quickly left the cave. Half an hour later, Ji Tianqing's true essence had completely recovered, and he ended his cultivation. When he opened his eyes, he saw that there was only him and Long Yunxiao in the gloomy cave. "Son of Heaven, where did eldest senior sister go?" Long Yunxiao turned to look at him and said truthfully, "She's outside investigating the aura of the demon race." Ji Tianqing nodded silently. After a moment of silence, he said, "Thank you for helping me when I was attacked by the bone specter dragon." Long Yunxiao leaned against the cold stone wall, closing his eyes to rest. He calmly said, "It's nothing." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked doubtfully, "Why did you save me in such a dangerous situation? If I'm killed by the spectral bone dragon, wouldn't that be exactly what you want?" He believed that if it were anyone else, they would not have helped him out like Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao opened his eyes and looked at him. He said in a serious tone, Ji Tianqing, you and Yao Yao are secretly in love. You and I are rivals in love. Of course I don't like you. However, I am definitely not the kind of person who would do anything to achieve my goals. I will take you seriously and see you as my opponent. I will defeat you fair and square and take back Yao Yao's heart. Besides, if I leave you to die and you get killed by the spectral skeletal dragon, Yao Yao will definitely look down on me. Although Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao were rivals in love, when Ji Tianqing heard Long Yunxiao's words, he could not help but feel deep respect. He secretly thought, Long Yunxiao is indeed worthy of being the imperial court son of heaven. His breadth of mind is unmatched by ordinary people. This guy is a strong opponent. After a moment of silence, Ji Tianqing asked another question that had been bothering him. Son of heaven, with your status and power, what kind of woman can't you get? Eldest senior sister is cold to you. Why do you insist on pestering her? Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and smiled. Yes, with my status, no matter who I choose to be the heavenly concubine, it will be her luck and glory. Everyone in the world respects me as the imperial court son of heaven. When I was young, everyone followed me and gave in to me. No one dared to go against my will. However, Yao Yao is different from the rest. She is the most special person. She is probably the only one who disdains me and treats me coldly. Speaking of this, his eyes revealed a deep look of reminiscence. He continued in a playful tone, the first time I saw Yao Yao was at her father's 100th birthday banquet. She was only 12 years old at that time, but she was already beautiful and elegant. I still remember that day. She was wearing a long dress with a moon and a frozen star and a pair of phoenix boots. She was quiet and elegant, just like a little fairy. I used the birthday banquet as an excuse to get close to her. I pestered her and wanted to talk to her. However, she completely ignored me. She would rather have a little spirit bird as her companion than to even look at me. From that day onwards, I made up my mind to marry her in this life and let her see my sincerity and loyalty. Ji Tianqing listened silently and felt that it was a little funny. Everyone followed Long Yunxiao, only Yunyao was cold to him. So he didn't like other women and swore to marry Yunyao as his concubine? Why does it seem like he's angry? He wanted to ask Long Yunxiao a few more questions about Yunyao, but Yunyao came back and quickly walked into the stone cave. Long Yunxiao's eyes immediately fell on Yunyao and asked with concern, Yao Yao, did you encounter any danger? Did you find anything? Yunyao glanced at him. Seeing that Ji Tianqing had finished his cultivation, she said, the sky is bright. There are no ghosts wandering outside. I just checked. The demon's aura is outside the formation. It seems to be hiding in the depths of the West District. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, in that case, let's break the formation as soon as possible. After leaving this maze, we can find the demon. Long Yunxiao nodded in agreement. There's no time to lose. Let's act as soon as possible. Therefore, the three of them used their strengths and explored the foundation of the formation in the stone cave to find a way to break it. Ji Tianqing abandoned all distracting thoughts and focused on the stone wall of the stone cave. He formed a seal with both hands and used his formation skills to explore the foundation of the formation with full concentration. After 2 hours, he found some clues. Through the structure of the foundation of the formation and the network of the formation, he concluded that this maze formation used the two formations Frost Soul Shadow and Smoke Net 100 changes. Although the person who set up the formation did not use vital essence and spiritual chi of heaven and earth, but gloomy ghost chi and bloody devil chi, and made some changes to the two formations. But as the saying goes, no matter how many changes there were, the essence of the formation remained the same. Ji Tianqing started from the foundation of the formation in the stone cave and began to reverse analyze it. He identified the network of the formation and the other foundations of the formation. After 4 hours, he used his formation skills to break the formation. Long Yunxiao and Yunyao still didn't know much about this great array, but under his guidance, they quickly understood the crux of the matter. The two of them also helped him break the formation, so the speed of breaking the formation increased a little. After 12 hours, an entire day had passed. It was time for night again. At this time, Ji Tianqing finally succeeded in breaking the formation with the help of Yun Yao and Long Yunxiao. Of course, breaking the formation was not destroying it. He could only open a passage in the formation, but he could not completely destroy it. Chapter 397. Under the dim curtain of night, Ji Tianqing and the other two left the formation and returned to an old street. There were no stars in the night sky. There was only a crescent moon shining with a weak moonlight. The strange thing was that the moonlight had a hint of dark red. The street was very old. There were many cracks in the ground. Everywhere was covered with dust and fallen leaves. Piles of rotten debris were piled up. The houses on both sides were also dilapidated. Everywhere was covered with dust and spider webs. Countless poisonous snakes, scorpions, and insects were hidden. The air was filled with the aura of decay and death. The three of them used their spiritual senses to investigate. There was no aura of living people within 1,000 meters. At this time, Yunyao looked at the end of the street and said in a grave tone, "I found it. The source of the devil energy is there." Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao followed her gaze and vaguely saw an old house at the end of the street. In the darkness, a faint yellow light was faintly revealed in the house. "Let's go and take a look." Long Yunxiao clenched his 9-cloud sword and took the lead to walk towards the end of the street. His tone and eyes contained a hint of expectation, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao followed closely behind. They were full of vigilance and vigilance. Rustle, 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 the three of them stepped on the dust and fallen leaves on the ground, making a slight sound. It was very obvious in the silent night. Before long, the three of them arrived at the end of the street and stopped in front of the house's gate. The dilapidated house occupied an area of at least 1,000 meters. There were several courtyards. The vermilion gate with peeling paint was tightly shut. The two huge lion head knockers were also suffused with dark green rust. 2 vermilion black lanterns were hung on both sides of the gate. It was unknown how much dust and spider webs and mud had accumulated on them. A dark brown plaque hung on the lintel, half of it drooping in front of the gate. There were 3 mottled and blurry words on the plaque: Wudong Courtyard. Long Yunxiao released his spiritual sense and covered an area of 200 meters. He silently investigated the situation in the courtyard. Carrying the 9-cloud sword, he walked to the gate first and was about to kick it open. But at this moment, the lanterns hanging on both sides of the door suddenly lit up with a dark red light. The strange thing was that the hazy blood light did not illuminate the area in front of the door. Instead, it condensed into a huge ghost face. It was an old woman with disheveled hair. Her face was dry and wrinkled like tree bark. Her eyes were deeply sunken and she had a wide mouth. She looked at Long Yunxiao and grinned, revealing a strange and sinister smile. "Keek keek. You 3 little fellows, this old one has been waiting for you for a long time." The ghost-faced old woman's voice was hoarse as she let out a cold laugh. However, this was not a voice that spoke. Instead, it was a telepathic message that rang out directly in the minds of the 3. Long Yunxiao subconsciously took a step back. Holding the 9-cloud sword, he was about to slash at the ghost face. At this moment, the blood light on the lantern on the right side of the door condensed into a huge face. It was a broad and ferocious man's face. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. His mouth was like a bloody mouth, and he looked very ferocious. He looked at Ji Tianqing and Yunyao with a sneer on his face and said in broken human language, "Little bastards of the Sky Pillar sect, you really don't know what's good for you. You actually dared to come here." Ji Tianqing and the other 2 took a closer look and immediately recognized that this ferocious man was a demon. Long Yunxiao stared at the face of the demon. After a moment of careful observation, he frowned and his expression became serious. In the next moment, the red door automatically opened to both sides, letting out muffled creaking sounds. Ji Tianqing and the other two looked through the door and immediately saw two figures, one tall and one short, standing in the dilapidated courtyard behind the door. The black-robed figure on the left was very short, like a skinny monkey in a black robe. In his hand was a walking stick that was even taller than him. Two black snakes were coiled around the cane, hissing and flicking their forked tongues. The figure on the right was abnormally tall and burly. He was more than 3 meters tall and was as strong as a ferocious beast. This was a demon with long red hair. He wore a necklace of bone teeth around his neck and a black python apron around his waist. There was no doubt that these two figures were the Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost. The two of them looked coldly at Ji Tianqing and the other two outside the door. Their bodies were emitting a strong aura of death and bloodthirst. When Long Yunxiao saw the Blood Demon King's appearance, his expression changed, and a glint flashed in his eyes. Blood Demon King? It's actually him. Long Yunxiao recognized the Blood Demon King and immediately used his spiritual sense to remind Ji Tianqing and Yunyao. I didn't expect the Blood Demon King to come personally. He's a great demon who has been famous for 100 years. He has killed countless people in our territory. He's very powerful. With the strength of the three of us, we're no match for him. Long Yunxiao didn't expect that the demon hiding in Yanling City was the Blood Demon King. Before he left the imperial court and came to the Tianshan region, he had investigated the demon race. He had a certain understanding of the Blood Demon King and the Blood Demon tribe. The Blood Demon King was one of the best among the Sky Origin Realm experts. Long Yunxiao had just entered the Sky Origin Realm not long ago. He was no match for the Blood Demon King. At this moment, his heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar. He was extremely vigilant. When Ji Tianqing and Yunyao heard the name, Blood Demon King, their expressions changed and became serious. Blood Demon King. He's the leader of the Blood Demon tribe, the father of the Blood Moon Infanta. For the past 100 years, the demon race has been wreaking havoc in the Tianshan region and Yangon region. They have killed countless human warriors under the orders of the Blood Demon King. He's the real Demon King, a cruel and bloodthirsty executioner. When the Blood Demon King saw the reaction of Ji Tianqing and the other two, he immediately grinned. He, little guys, don't you think it's too late to be afraid and regretful now? Tonight, I'll use your blood and souls as a sacrifice to teach the Sky Pillar sect a painful lesson. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and sent out a huge ball of blood light that enveloped the three of them. Swoosh! The dark red blood light that was so dense that it couldn't be dispersed turned into a blood net that covered the sky and the sun. It covered an area of 30 meters and covered the three of them. Invisible changes immediately occurred around Ji Tianqing and the other two. The night silently twisted, and the air seemed to have solidified. It was like a pool of mud that trapped the three of them and made it difficult for them to move. Get out of the way. Danger. Long Yunxiao and Ji Tianqing warned almost at the same time. They wanted to pull Yunyao and escape to the sides. However, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were weaker. They had to put in a lot of effort for every step they took. Swoosh! Long Yunxiao could still move freely and was about to escape from the blood net's range. Chapter 398. Water Split. Ji Tianqing bellowed and released a golden sword aura that was 10 meters long. It slashed at the blood net that was falling from the sky. Moonlight Essence. Yunyao also waved her cold moon sword and slashed out a silver sword aura that was more than 10 meters long. It slashed at the blood net like moonlight. The two powerful sword auras instantly slashed at the dark red blood net that was falling from the sky, making two dull sounds. Bang! Bang! However, the two sword auras failed to break the blood net. Instead, they collapsed into pieces and were immediately swallowed by the blood net. Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were about to be enveloped by the blood net. At the critical moment, Long Yunxiao stopped running. He unleashed all his strength and performed a unique skill with the nine-cloud sword. Thunder-splitting sky. He held the nine-cloud sword with both hands and poured endless true essence into it. A sword aura of purple thunder that was 20 meters long was condensed and slashed at the blood net. The purple thunder sword radiance sliced open a crack in the strange yet flexible blood web with a chila sound. The gap quickly expanded and spread to both sides. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a big hole. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao immediately jumped through the big hole and out of the blood net. In the next moment, the blood net fell from the sky and covered the gate and the walls of the house. After a series of hissing sounds, the whole gate and the red brick walls were corroded into black ashes by the blood net and fell to the ground. Furthermore, after the blood web landed on the ground, it corroded the stone floor until it was riddled with holes, revealing palm-sized gullies. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao both felt scared and relieved. If they were enveloped by the blood net, their flesh and blood would be sucked dry and corroded into black ashes. We can't stay here for too long. Run! Long Yunshao rushed over without hesitation. He pulled Yun Yao and fled in the direction they came from. Ji Tianqing also hurriedly followed, using his shadowless steps with all his might, running as fast as lightning. In Wudong Courtyard, Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost both sneered. Hee, you want to leave after coming here? The Blood Demon King sneered and once again sent out 3 blood-red light beams towards Ji Tianqing and the other 2 at lightning speed. The blood-red beam of light pierced through the night sky and immediately transformed into 3 gigantic blood-red palms that slammed toward the 3 of them. Granny Ghost cast a spell with her left hand and waved the snake-headed walking stick with her right hand. She cast a secret technique and stomped the walking stick on the ground. Suddenly, the entire street outside the Wudong Courtyard collapsed with a series of cracking sounds. Dense cracks appeared on the ground, extending to both sides. The houses and mansions on both sides of the street crumbled into rubble, falling towards the middle of the street, trying to bury the 3 of them on the spot. Not only that, under the cracks on the ground, many ghosts condensed from white bones crawled out from the ruins of the houses and mansions on both sides. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced on the 3 of them. In an instant, the ground and mountains within a radius of 1,000 meters shook, releasing a gloomy ghost aura that soared into the sky, turning into a ghost domain. Long Yunshao took the lead and rushed to the front, constantly waving his 9-cloud sword and slashing away the white bone ghosts that pounced on him from both sides. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao followed closely behind. Their figures dodged left and right, narrowly avoiding the collapsed brick ruins on both sides and the attacks of the skeletal ghosts. However, the 3 of them had only escaped 100 steps away when the Blood Demon King's 3 blood-red palms reached their backs. The speed of the blood-red palms was so fast that Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao couldn't dodge them in time. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing's mind moved. A golden light lit up behind him, and the Kenshin battle robe appeared. He subconsciously hugged Yun Yao and held her tightly in his arms, covering her body with the Kenshin battle robe. Before Yun Yao could react, 2 blood-red palms with a radius of 5 meters hit her and Ji Tianqing with a loud bang. Bam! With a deafening muffled sound, Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were sent flying at the same time. They rolled and smashed into the brick ruins on the side of the street. Long Yunshao held the 9-cloud sword with both hands and released a thunderbolt that soared into the sky. He turned around and blocked the attack of the blood-red palms. Bam! The blood-red palms exploded with a bang, but he was also sent flying backward and fell on the street that was full of cracks. He was only slightly injured. He didn't have time to check his injuries and hurriedly ran toward Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing. Yao Yao. How are you? Are you hurt? Long Yunxiao's tone was full of anger and anxiety, and his eyes were faintly red. He quickly waved his palms and 9-cloud sword to push away the brick ruins that were piled up like a mountain. Finally, he pulled Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao out. Yun Yao was unscathed, but Ji Tianqing's face was pale, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The defense of the Kenshin battle robe was extremely strong. However, he was not completely protected by the battle robe while protecting Yun Yao. He was still injured by the blood-red palms. Long Yunshao was relieved when he saw that Yun Yao was not injured. Yun Yao saw that Ji Tianqing's injuries were not light. Her eyes were full of anxiety and concern. She said in a somewhat reproachful tone, "Tianqing, protect yourself. Don't worry about me." Tianqing wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve and hurriedly urged, "Now is not the time to talk about this. Let's run." The three of them stepped over the brick ruins and were about to continue running. However, there were more than a dozen white skeletons and ghosts condensed from bones from all directions. They pounced on them fearlessly. "I'll cover you. You guys run first," Long Yunxiao shouted in a low voice. He held the 9-cloud sword and rushed toward a few white skeletons. He slashed out a few huge purple lightning sword beams and smashed the white skeletons into pieces and burned them into black ashes. However, he was immediately surrounded by more than a dozen skeletons and ghosts. He waved the 9-cloud sword with all his strength and used his ultimate sword technique. He slashed out a sky full of thunder and lightning and blasted many skeletons and ghosts away. However, more skeletons and ghosts rushed out from all directions. There were also white ghosts floating in the air and puppets in black robes. They quickly surrounded them. "If we're going to leave, we'll leave together," Yinyao shouted in a low voice. She waved the cold moon sword and stabbed out a sky full of cold sword beams, killing a few ghosts. Tianqing also rushed toward the group of skeletons and ghosts like a gust of wind. He used the ultimate move of the flying star sword technique and launched a violent attack. However, the number of skeletons and ghost puppets was simply too great. Hundreds of skeletons, ghosts, and puppets rushed out from the underground and the ruins of houses within a radius of 1,000 meters. They all pounced toward them with murderous intent. In the blink of an eye, Tianqing, Long Yunxiao, and Yunyao were surrounded by hundreds of ghosts and monsters. At the same time, the Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost also caught up with them. Both of them condensed a pair of black light wings and flew into the dark night sky. They looked down at Tianqing and the other two from above and sneered ferociously and bloodthirstily. "He, you three are really affectionate and righteous little bastards. Unfortunately, you are going to die soon." Chapter 399. With Tianqing and Long Yunxiao's strength, no matter how many ghosts and ghosts there were, they were nothing to be afraid of. However, the Blood Demon Lord and Granny Ghost were undefeatable. Their strength and skills were too powerful and horrifying. Tianqing and the other two were not qualified to fight them head-on. They could only run for their lives. After all, the Blood Demon Lord and Granny Ghost were Heaven Yuan cultivators who had been famous for hundreds of years. Their seniority was similar to Xiang Wuji and Chu Tiansheng. Bang! 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 In a series of dull sounds, Tianqing and the other two unleashed sword radiance that covered the sky. The ghosts and ghosts around them were shattered into pieces, turning into white bones that scattered on the ground. The area within a 30-meter radius became clear and spacious. However, the three of them did not look relaxed. They raised their heads and looked at the night sky at the Blood Demon Lord and Granny Ghost. The three of them remained silent. Their eyes were filled with determination. Long Yunxiao pursed his lips and said to Tianqing and Yunyao through his spiritual sense, "I will hold them back. You two run for your lives." Tianqing and Yunyao disagreed. They quickly advised, "No. It's too dangerous. You are no match for them. We will not let you fight them alone." Long Yunxiao's face was as cold as ice. He shouted in a firm tone, "Stop fighting. This is the only way. Only in this way can we have a chance to escape." His tone contained an indisputable dignity, and it was resolute and decisive like steel. Then, a golden ball appeared in his left palm. It released a dazzling golden light that covered his entire body. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the dazzling golden light turned into a majestic golden armor that covered his entire body. This dark golden armor not only had a helmet, gloves, and boots, but also a pair of dark golden wings on its back. Not only that, there was a sharp and narrow black blade that extended from the left arm of the armor. It was giving out an extremely sharp aura. At this moment, Long Yunxiao was no longer the handsome, elegant, and graceful emperor of heaven. He had become a majestic and violent god of war on the battlefield. His entire body was giving out an earth-shattering aura and killing intent. I have the dragon teeth saber, 9-cloud sword, and god of war armor. You don't have to worry about me. Ji Tianqing, I will leave Yao Yao to you for now. You have to bring her out of here safe and sound. Long Yunxiao looked up at the Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost in the night sky. His tone was solemn as he threw down these 2 words. Then, he charged into the night sky without looking back. Swoosh! With a flap of his dark golden wings, he turned into a golden stream of light, swinging his sword at the Blood Demon King in the night sky. His slender and vigorous back exuded an indomitable and fearless aura. Ji Tianqing looked at Long Yunxiao's back with mixed feelings. He suddenly felt that it was a great honor to fight a fight's battle with him. Trust him and do as he says. Yunyao looked at Long Yunxiao deeply before she pulled Ji Tianqing and ran forward. The 2 of them had just run 20 meters when they were surrounded by more than 20 skeletons, ghosts. Ji Tianqing immediately manipulated the Kenshin battle robe and turned it into a pair of golden wings. He flapped his golden wings and flew into the sky with Yunyao in tow, rushing forward. However, the ghosts that were pouncing on him from all directions flew into the sky and surrounded him. He was flying in the sky with Yunyao. There was nowhere for him to borrow strength, so he could not use much of his strength. Suddenly, the 2 of them were in a perilous situation. Ji Tianqing had no choice but to land on the ground and fight with the ghosts. He no longer held back his strength. He put on the heavenly origin astral armor and the Kenshin battle robe and bravely attacked. Crimson Dragon Flash. Water Split. Shatter the mountains and rivers. Ji Tianqing turned into a ferocious beast in human form and rampaged through the ruins. All the ghosts that tried to stop him were smashed into pieces and turned into broken bones on the ground. Yunyao formed a sword seal with her left hand and waved the cold moon's sword with her right hand. Her white robe fluttered in the wind as she performed her ultimate sword technique and killed all the ghosts that came from all directions. The 2 of them struggled to fight their way through the ruins and escaped forward step by step. At the same time, Long Yunxiao was also fighting fiercely with the Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost in the dark night sky. He was like a dark golden god of war flapping his golden wings and flashing left and right in the night sky. He swung his sword and created a sky full of lightning. The dazzling lightning tore apart the dark night sky and bombarded the ground below. Many houses and buildings that were still intact within a radius of 1,000 meters exploded into ruins after being hit by the lightning swords. Rumble, 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 rumble. The earth trembled crazily, and huge gullies were carved out. The Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost kept shooting out blood light, blue soul fire, and green soul fire, which covered the night sky within a radius of 100 meters. The 2 of them showed their strengths and had endless attacking methods. The blood light condensed into giant palms, giant blades, and giant monsters, which poured down on Long Yunxiao like a flood. The blue soul fire and green soul fire condensed into giant ghost shadows. The dense rain of arrows, the fire pillars across the night sky, and even the giant flying birds, all attacked Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao knew that he was no match for the 2 of them, so he didn't want to fight them head-on. He relied on the strong defense of the god of war armor and his lightning-fast speed to dodge back and forth in the sky. Only when he found a chance did he perform his ultimate attack. The fight between the 3 Sky Origin stage cultivators was earth-shattering. The purple lightning, the red blood light, the blue soul fire, and the green soul fire mixed and intertwined with each other to create a splendid brilliance, which illuminated the ghost region within a radius of 1,000 meters. The violent shockwaves were like 5-colored air waves. They spread out in circles and engulfed all the buildings and streets in the surroundings. Boom, boom, boom. The loud noise spread through half of Flame Spirit City and woke up countless warriors. That night, in the east, south, and north of Spirit Flame City, there were many experts secretly observing the battle in the west of Spirit Flame City. However, no matter which force they were from, they could only watch in the dark. They didn't dare to step into the west. Unknowingly, 15 minutes had passed. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao killed more than 300 ghosts and puppets along the way. He was protected by the Kenshin battle robe and star armor, so he wasn't hurt at all. Earlier, his internal organs were injured by the Blood Demon King, so he didn't need to take any elixirs to heal. The powerful and mysterious Kenshin bloodline had a nature-defying self-healing ability. He had already recovered from his injuries. However, the continuous fierce fighting had consumed a lot of his true origin. He had used half of his true origin, and his body was extremely tired. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead as he panted heavily. Fortunately, he and Yun Yao had rushed almost 1,000 meters away. They were about to rush out of the ghost region and leave Parasol Garden. Unfortunately, the Blood Demon King sensed Long Yunxiao's intentions and saw that he and Yun Yao were about to escape. He abandoned Long Yunxiao without hesitation and charged over without caring about anything else. Chapter 400. Little bastard, your flesh, blood, and soul belong to me. How dare you try to escape? You will definitely die today. The Blood Demon King roared with a murderous aura. His body turned into a blood-red light and streaked across the night sky. In the blink of an eye, he flew 1,000 meters away and arrived above Ji Tianqing's head. Long Yunxiao was also secretly paying attention to Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's movements when he was fighting with the Blood Demon King and Grandma Ghost. Seeing that Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were about to be out of danger, he was secretly happy and gratified. But in the blink of an eye, the Blood Demon King stopped fighting with him and pounced on Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao. His heart immediately jumped, and he chased after him without hesitation. Blood Demon King. Your opponent is me. You evil demon, fight with me for 300 rounds. See how I chop off your head. Long Yunxiao's voice was as loud as a bell. He turned into a golden light and rushed towards the Blood Demon King, provoking him. However, how cunning was the Blood Demon King? How could he be provoked by him? The Blood Demon King turned a deaf ear to his words. He released a monstrous blood-red light that condensed into 12 giant blood-red swords and slashed at Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao. Long Yunxiao wanted to help, but it was too late. At this moment, Grandma Ghost chased after him with a sinister smile. She waved her snake-headed walking stick and shot out a green fire that covered the sky. It condensed into hundreds of skulls that enveloped Long Yunxiao's figure. Long Yunxiao was entangled and couldn't get away. He could only wave his sword and saber to resist the siege of the skulls. Hundreds of meters away, he could only watch as Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were drowned by the giant blood-red swords. Boom! 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 Amidst the deafening noise, the 12 giant blood-red swords hit the ground and covered a radius of 100 meters. Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao's figures were drowned by the blood-red swords. The ground within a radius of 100 meters was shattered into pieces, turning into an incomparably huge crater, with dust and stone fragments bursting out into the sky. The Blood Demon King stood in the night sky and looked down at the deep pit on the ground. His eyes were as gloomy and sharp as an eagle's. Although the power of his ultimate move was extremely terrifying, it was still not enough. However, his holy sense sensed that Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao were still alive. They had unexpectedly blocked the attack of the huge bloody sword. In the next moment, a golden stream of light jumped out from the bottom of the crater and rushed into the distance as fast as the wind. Within the golden light, Ji Tianqing was carrying the pale-faced Yun Yao as he ran for his life. His footsteps were somewhat staggered, and blood flowed out of his mouth and nose. It was obvious that he had been injured. The star armor could withstand the full power of a Yuan Dan expert, but it couldn't withstand a Heaven Yuan expert like the Blood Demon King. The Kenshin battle robe could withstand the attack, but it couldn't completely protect him and Yun Yao. Even though he had stood in front of Yun Yao and protected her in his arms when the 12 blood-red giant swords came crashing down, he had no regard for his own safety. However, he and Yunyao had both been injured by the huge bloody swords. The monstrous demonic aura contained in the huge swords had already taken the opportunity to invade Yunyao's body. It was wantonly destroying her bloodline and true essence, corroding her celestial spirit's sacred constitution. Her celestial spirit's sacred constitution was very special. It was very sensitive to the aura of various races. It was also because of this that her celestial spirit's sacred constitution was easily corroded and destroyed by the demonic aura. Ever since she had started cultivating, she had to cultivate in the spirit moon hot spring every month to wash away the impurities and evil aura and maintain the purity of her celestial spirit's sacred constitution's bloodline. At this moment, blood kept flowing out of the corner of Yunyao's mouth. A faint black aura appeared on her pale face. That was caused by the demonic aura entering her body. Although she was still conscious, her consciousness was getting blurrier and her strength was extremely weak. Ji Tianqing sensed that her situation was extremely bad. He was immediately filled with anxiety and worry. He desperately used his potential to run wildly. His figure was like a stream of light as he crossed the ruins one after another. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind. No matter what, I have to take senior sister and escape from here. I can't let anything happen to her. However, when the Blood Demon King saw him and Yunyao, he sneered and chased after them. Swoosh! The Blood Demon King flew across the night sky as fast as an aurora and landed on the ruins 30 meters in front of Ji Tianqing. Little bastard, die! The Blood Demon King shouted angrily. His figure turned into a bloody light and rushed in front of Ji Tianqing in an instant. He raised his huge fists and punched at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing was holding Yunyao in his arms and had no time to dodge or block. At this critical moment, he could only turn around and face the Blood Demon King with his back. Bam! Bam! The Blood Demon King's fists hit Kenshin's battle robe and sent Ji Tianqing flying. He drew an arc in the night sky and smashed into the ruins 30 meters away with a bang. Pfft! He lay in the ruins covered in dust and spat out a mouthful of blood. If not for the protection of Kenshin's battle robe, the Blood Demon King's punch would have smashed him into meat paste. Yunyao also fell to the side. Her injuries were even more serious. Her eyes were weak and lifeless, and she was about to fall into a coma. Blood Demon King strode over, his huge feet stomping on the ground, producing a series of muffled footsteps. He came in front of Ji Tianqing and stared at Ji Tianqing condescendingly. His eyes fell on Kenshin's battle robe. Kid, you didn't die after taking a punch from this king. This battle robe is very extraordinary. Tell this king, what treasure is this? The Blood Demon King sneered and said in a mocking tone. In his eyes, Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were doomed to die. They were no different from corpses. Ji Tianqing endured the internal injuries and the stabbing pain all over his body. He secretly used the Kenshin bloodline to quickly heal his injuries. He gritted his teeth and stood up without saying a word. He held the seriously injured Yunyao in his arms. The Blood Demon King frowned and a cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He slowly raised his right hand. A thick bloody light surged in his palm and burst out with a powerful devouring power. He manipulated the thick bloody light and condensed it into a huge bloody light vortex that enveloped Ji Tianqing. Kid, it's time for you to return your Kenshin bloodline to this king. The Blood Demon King shouted at Ji Tianqing with his spiritual sense. He wanted to use the bloody light vortex to devour Ji Tianqing's flesh and soul. He wanted to suck him into a skeleton and deprive him of his bloodline. Ji Tianqing subconsciously used the shatter of the mountains and rivers. He slashed out a huge golden sword aura and slashed at the bloody light vortex. Bam! The bloody light vortex trembled a few times. The huge sword aura that was 10 meters long collapsed into hundreds of pieces and was swallowed by the bloody light vortex. Ji Tianqing was also enveloped by the terrifying devouring power. He struggled hard but could not escape. His body involuntarily flew into the vortex. At this critical moment, a resounding and majestic dragon roar suddenly resounded in the night sky above everyone's heads. Roar! At the same time, a dazzling golden light lit up the sky and illuminated the entire West City district. A 1,000-meter-long double-headed dragon appeared in the night sky out of thin air. Its 4 huge dragon eyes stared at the Blood Demon King and exuded an extremely sacred aura. It swooped down from the night sky at lightning speed and waved its huge dragon claws at the Blood Demon King. Brothers who haven't voted yet, remember to vote. Chapter 401. The Blood Demon King was not prepared at all. He did not expect a dragon to appear out of nowhere. The 2-headed golden dragon was too fast. He sensed something was wrong, but it was too late for him to dodge. In the next moment, the 2-headed golden dragon descended from the sky. Its huge dragon claws slammed into him, covering an area of dozens of meters. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion reverberated in the night sky and spread throughout the entire Flame Spirit City. The destructive force of the impact blasted a deep crater with a radius of several hundred meters in the ground. The crater was densely packed with cracks. In that instant, the entire Spirit Flame City seemed to have experienced a massive earthquake as it shook and trembled violently. All the old houses in the West District collapsed and turned into ruins. Debris and dust flew into the sky and covered the entire West District, turning everything within a few thousand meters into chaos. The citizens of Flame Spirit City were awakened. They all ran out of their houses in fear and looked up at the sky above the West District. Amidst the smoke and dust that covered the sky, a gigantic golden Biyao dragon was flying away like a stream of light. No one saw that the golden dragon was holding a young man and woman in one of its front claws. After a long while, the earth-shattering explosion gradually dissipated. Granny Ghost, who was wearing a black robe, held a broken walking stick and descended from the night sky. She landed at the edge of the huge crater. Under her tattered black robe, only her right leg was left. Her left leg was gone. When the Blood Demon King was chasing after Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao, she was responsible for keeping Long Yunxiao busy. In the end, the crazed Long Yunxiao used his trump card and broke her walking stick with a single slash. He even slashed her left leg with his saber. Her entire left leg had been chopped off and burned into black ash by the purple thunder astral fire. However, this level of injury was only a minor injury to her. In 3 to 5 months at most, she could use her evil secret technique to regrow her severed left leg. Granny Ghost stood at the edge of the crater. She looked at the pitch-black bottom of the crater and shouted angrily, "Blood Demon King, are you dead? Crawl out if you're not dead." The bottom of the pit was silent for a while before the sound of bricks breaking could be heard. The ruins shook violently, and an ugly, ferocious black beast that was over 100 meters long struggled to crawl out. It shook its head hard to get rid of the dust and debris around it. Only then did it crawl out of the deep pit with difficulty. More than half of the fin-like spikes on its back were broken. 3 of its 4 broad black wings were broken as well. From its back to the right side of its abdomen, there was a huge wound that almost tore half of its stomach open. Inside the deep and wide wound, rows of white bones could be seen. Dark purple blood was still gushing out. Seeing this scene, Granny Ghost couldn't help but tremble and gasp. That damned flood dragon, how could it injure you so badly? After the black beast crawled out of the deep pit, it lay on the ground and gasped for breath for a while. A pitch-black demonic mist gushed out of its body. A moment later, the hideous beast turned into a 3-meter-tall demon. It was the Blood Demon King. His head and face were covered in dirty blood. There was a huge wound on the right side of his abdomen. The white bones and internal organs were clearly visible. Puff! The Blood Demon King opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dirty blood. With a ferocious expression, he roared in rage, "Damned bastards! One day, I will return to the Middle State and trample the bullshit Imperial Court." Granny Ghost glanced at him and said in a low and hoarse voice, "Stop bragging. Is the Imperial Court something you can mess with? Unless the Demon Emperor returns to the world. The ghost region that I have painstakingly built for decades is destroyed just like that. After tonight's battle, all the major forces in Spirit Flame City have been alarmed. There is no place for me here. Granny Ghost's tone was filled with grief, indignation, and unwillingness. She hated Ji Tianqing and the other two to the extreme. The Blood Demon King's voice was even more venomous. He shouted in a low voice, "Let's leave Spirit Flame City before daybreak and find a place to heal first. They let those 3 little bastards escape this time. They won't be so lucky next time." With that, he and Granny Ghost turned into black fog and ghost chi and disappeared into the dark night. They silently left the ruins of the West City. At the same time, in the night sky outside Spirit Flame City, the double-headed golden dragon was galloping high in the sky. Yinyao lay on the back of the golden dragon with her eyes closed. There were still traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. The black aura on her pale face was getting heavier. Her injuries were getting worse and worse. Her consciousness had also fallen into a coma and she was unconscious. Ji Tianqing sat beside her. He endured the weakness of his body and transferred the remaining true essence in his body into her body. However, it was to no avail. He had already taken off his starlight armor and Kenshin battle robe. He was wearing a tattered white robe and his body was stained with blood. He looked very miserable. The lack of true essence made his body extremely weak. The exhaustion of his physical strength also made him extremely tired. He could faint at any time. If not for the fact that Yunyao was unconscious and in a critical situation, he would not have been able to hold on. Long Yunxiao was also sitting beside Yunyao. He had already put away his divine battle armor and 9-cloud sword. His situation was not much better. His hair was messy, his handsome face and robe were stained with blood, and his true essence was almost depleted. Fortunately, although he looked miserable, his injuries were not serious. He stared at Yunyao. His eyes were filled with anxiety and worry. His fists were also tightly clenched. "Yao Yao, nothing must happen to you. We've already left Spirit Flame City. We'll send you back to treat your injuries soon. You must hold on." Long Yunxiao muttered softly. Unfortunately, the unconscious Yunyao could not hear him at all. After a moment of silence, he raised his head and looked at Ji Tianqing. His eyes were sharp as he asked in a cold voice, "Ji Tianqing, is this how you protect Yao Yao? I entrusted her to you. I told you to bring her away safely no matter what. What happened in the end? You're safe and sound, but she's seriously injured and unconscious." Ji Tianqing was silent. He did not want to explain, nor did he have the ability to defend himself. He did not care about his own safety and tried his best to protect Yunyao. He did not even hesitate to use his body to block the Blood Demon King's killing move. However, the Blood Demon King was too powerful. He was one of the best in the ethereal origin stage. He and Yunyao were only in the origin core stage. How could they block his attack? He was filled with hatred. He hated that he was not strong enough to protect Yunyao and kill the Blood Demon King. He. Ji Tianqing, oh Ji Tianqing. I really overestimated you. Long Yunxiao was filled with grief and worry. He was so angry that he laughed. He shook his head and said, "I actually saw you as an opponent and even gave you a chance to compete fairly. What a joke. If Yunyao entrusted her life to you, you can't even guarantee her safety. How can you give her peace and happiness?" Chapter 402. 2 hours later, the double-headed golden dragon flew back to the Sky Pillar sect. It was dawn at this moment, and the sky was just starting to turn white. During the journey, Ji Tianqing and Long Yunxiao had already used spirit stones to recover 20 to 30% of their true essence. The double-headed golden dragon landed on the red cloud peak and made a huge noise, immediately alarming Chu Tianqing and several guards. Ji Tianqing carried the unconscious Yunyao, hurriedly jumped off the dragon's back, and quickly ran to the palace where Chu Tianqing lived. Long Yunxiao also quickly put away the double-headed golden dragon and followed as fast as the wind. A moment later, Ji Tianqing arrived outside Chu Tianqing's secret room, and the black-robed guard immediately opened the door. Chu Tianqing had just finished his cultivation when he saw Ji Tianqing carrying the unconscious Yunyao into the secret room. His face immediately darkened, and he asked, "Tianqing, what's going on?" Ji Tianqing hurriedly placed Yunyao in the corner of the room, on an ice jade bed that was used for healing and cultivation. "Master, we were searching for the demons in Spirit Flame City and encountered the Blood Demon King. Senior sister was seriously injured by the Blood Demon King, and the demon Qi invaded her body, so she fell into a coma." He explained concisely, and Chu Tianqing's face immediately became solemn. He ordered the black-robed guard at the door, "Go and invite the Grand Elder over." Then, Chu Tianqing walked to the side of the ice jade bed and stretched out his right hand's index and middle fingers. 5-colored Jin Yuan light lit up, and he pressed it on Yunyao's wrist to check her injuries. After 100 breaths of time, he found out about Yunyao's injuries and frowned. The demon Qi has invaded her body and eroded her internal organs and core. Even her knowledge Si and soul have been invaded. Her situation is very critical. At this time, Long Yunxiao also rushed into the secret room. He looked at Chu Tianqing expectantly and asked anxiously, "Sect Master Chu, is there a way to save Yunyao?" When Chu Tianqing saw Long Yunxiao's miserable appearance, he could already guess what kind of danger the three of them had encountered in Flame Spirit City. Seeing that Long Yunxiao's heart was burning with worry, he comforted him in a low voice, "Son of Heaven, you don't have to panic. Go back to your residence and rest. After the Grand Supreme Elder and I examine her, we will do our best to help Yunyao expel the demonic energy." When Long Yunxiao heard Chu Tianqing's reply, he guessed that Chu Tianqing wasn't completely confident either. He became even more worried. Sect leader Chu, Yao Yao's heavenly spirit sacred body bloodline is extremely pure and noble. She must not be tainted by demonic qi. No matter what, sect leader Chu, please do your best to save her. If there are any difficulties or needs, I will think of a way. Chu Tianqing nodded and said in a deep voice, "Then, I'll thank you on behalf of Yunyao, Son of Heaven. Emperor, please go back and rest. Leave this place to me and the Grand Elder." After all, Long Yunxiao was a guest. It was not convenient for him to stay in the secret room. Although he was at the sky origin stage, he couldn't help Yunyao get rid of the devil Qi. Therefore, he could only say a few words to Chu Tianqing and leave the secret room. When Chu Tianqing saw that Ji Tianqing's injuries were not light and that he was very weak, he asked him to leave the secret room and go back to recuperate. Ji Tianqing staying in the secret room was of no help to Yunyao's injuries. He could only return to the Tianqing courtyard to recuperate and restore his strength. Not long after, Xiang Wuji hurried to the secret room. He was the strongest person in the sky-bearing sect and was proficient in alchemy and medicine. After entering the secret room, he asked with a solemn expression, "Chu Tianqing, what's going on?" Chu Tianqing hurriedly told him what Ji Tianqing had said. After listening, Xiang Wuji nodded with a gloomy expression and hurriedly walked to Yunyao's side. He waved his hand and released a stream of vital essence to check her condition. After a while, he withdrew his 5-colored vital essence and said in a heavy tone, "Yunyao's injuries are too serious. If we can't get rid of the devil qi in her body as soon as possible, there will only be 2 results. Either she will be infected by the devil qi, lose her consciousness and wisdom, and become a bloodthirsty demon. Or she won't be able to resist the devil qi, and her body will rot into ashes and die." Chu Tianqing narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice, "Uncle Master, is it that serious?" "Of course." Xiang Wuji nodded and said angrily, "Even I am afraid of the Blood Demon King's methods, let alone these juniors." Chu Tianqing asked again, "Uncle Master, is there any way to get rid of the devil qi in Yunyao's body?" Xiang Wuji shook his head. "There is no way for the time being. We can only try our best. Moreover, Yunyao is not only infected by the devil qi, but there is also a large amount of ghost qi in her body." Chu Tianqing was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly explained, "According to Tianqing, they met the Blood Demon King in Flame Spirit City. The Blood Demon King had a helper, an old woman who was no weaker than him. Xiang Wuji frowned and thought for a moment. His expression changed immediately, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Could it be Grandma Ghost? With Tianzi, Yunyao, and Tianqing's strength, it is already a miracle that they can come back alive after meeting the Blood Demon King and Grandma Ghost. Many years ago, Xiang Wuji had fought with the Blood Demon King and Grandma Ghost. He knew how powerful they were. He frowned and said in a low voice, Tianzi is too stubborn and self-opinionated this time. He actually brought Tianqing and Yunyao to Spirit Flame City and tried to get rid of the Blood Demon King. If the Blood Demon King was so easy to deal with, our sect would not have let him live until today. Sigh. Tianzi was born in Zhongzhou and is the son of the emperor. He is known as the #1 genius of the human race and has reached the divine origin stage at such a young age. It is inevitable that he is arrogant and looks down on everyone. It is a pity that he does not know the details and methods of the demon race. He underestimated the enemy and caused Yunyao to suffer such a calamity. Hearing this, Chu Tianqing quickly interrupted him. Uncle Master, it is not good for us to criticize Tianzi behind his back. Xiang Wuji glared at him and said in a low voice, what is not good about it? Could it be that he can hear us? In the end, this is all your fault. When the three of them wanted to go to Spirit Flame City, why did you not stop them? Chu Tianqing frowned and said with a bitter smile, Tianzi's identity is special. He insisted on going to Spirit Flame City. How could I stop him? Of course, Xiang Wuji understood this. He could not help but mumble, fortunately, he is fine. If anything happened to him, how would our sect explain it to the imperial court? Chu Tianqing was silent for a moment. Then, he said, Uncle Master, let's not talk about this for now. Let's try and see if we can help Yunyao get rid of the demon qi. Okay. Xiang Wuji replied and walked to the side of the ice jade bed. He raised his palms and activated the 5-colored true essence. He waved his palms and made a mysterious hand gesture. He used a secret technique and sent his true essence into Yunyao's body. Chu Tianqing helped from the side. He also released a vast amount of true essence into Yunyao's body to suppress the demon qi. Chapter 403. 8 hours had passed, and it was now noon. After absorbing 2 spirit stones, Ji Tianqing finally recovered 80% of his power. In these 8 hours, his sword god bloodline also quickly recovered, allowing his injuries to quickly recover. He was worried about Yunyao's injuries, so he quickly ended his cultivation and rushed to the Red Cloud Peak to visit her. When he entered the secret chamber, Yunyao was still lying on the ice jade bed. Her eyes were closed and she was unconscious. Her face was still black and her body was faintly emitting black fog. It was obvious that she had been deeply corroded by the demon qi. Xiang Wuji and Chu Tianqing had just finished cultivating. Long Yunshao was also in the secret chamber. He was sitting on the jade bed and staring at Yunyao. Previously, when they were on the back of the double-headed golden dragon, Long Yunshao had said those harsh words to Ji Tianqing because he was too concerned about Yunyao and Yunyao's injuries. Now that he had calmed down, he didn't blame Ji Tianqing when he saw him again. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and walked to Xiang Wuji's side. He asked with concern, "Old man, how is eldest senior sister?" Xiang Wuji didn't say anything. He shook his head silently and sighed with a heavy expression. Sigh. Seeing his reaction, Ji Tianqing immediately understood that he and Chu Tianqing were helpless about Yunyao's injuries. Ji Tianqing asked worriedly, "Is there no way? Is the demon qi of the Blood Demon King so difficult to deal with?" Long Yunshao was also filled with anxiety. Seeing Yunyao lying unconscious on the frigid ice jade bed, his eyes were filled with worry. It shouldn't be. Ji Tianqing and I have both fought with the Blood Demon King. Why are we safe and sound, but Yunyao's body was invaded by devil qi and her injuries are so serious? Chu Tianqing calmly explained, Yunyao's heavenly spirit's sacred body is very sensitive to the auras of other races. It's very easy for her to be corroded. Tianzi, you're different. You have the heavenly lightning sacred body, and you have the extreme yang body bloodline. It's very difficult for the evil aura to corrode you. As for Tianqing, speaking up to this point, Chu Tianqing glanced at Ji Tianqing, his brows furrowed in confusion. Xiang Wuji also stared at Ji Tianqing and sized him up. The two of them only knew that Ji Tianqing had the Xian Jian bloodline. After breaking the formation of the Dragon Mountain tomb, he obtained Kenshin's relics from the tomb. Both of them were guessing in their hearts. Could it be that the sword god's treasure was protecting Ji Tianqing? Ji Tianqing vaguely guessed the reason, but he didn't say it out loud. He looked at Xiang Wuji seriously and asked, "Old master, can we only watch senior sister be corroded by the demonic qi? Is there really no way to save her?" Long Yunxiao also wanted to ask the same question. He quickly turned to Xiang Wuji with anticipation in his eyes. Xiang Wuji thought for a while and said seriously, "It's not that there's no way. It's just that it's unrealistic. Yinyao has been corroded too deeply by the demonic qi. Her heavenly spirit's sacred body bloodline has almost been completely destroyed. Unless there's an extreme yang divine item or a pure divine bloodline, we can suppress the demonic qi in her body or get rid of it. The so-called divine item must be something beyond the divine origin realm." Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and immediately had an idea. There are a few divine items and divine treasures in the imperial court. I'll send a message to the imperial court now and ask them to send a divine item over. Xiang Wuji shook his head and said, "Tianzi, you need time to send a message. The imperial court will also need some time to send a divine item over. If we go back and forth, it'll take at least 10 days to half a month. By then, Yunya will have been corroded by the demonic qi and become a skeleton." Long Yunxiao frowned and asked unwillingly, "Since this method doesn't work, then my heavenly thunder's sacred body is a pure yang bloodline. Can I save Yao Yao?" Xiang Wuji thought for a while and sighed. "I'm afraid this method won't work. Tianzi, your bloodline is the same as Yunyao's. They're both heavenly bloodlines. If you want to help Yunyao get rid of the demonic qi completely, you need the power of a divine bloodline." Instantly, everyone fell silent. The atmosphere in the secret room was heavy and sorrowful. Yunyao was extremely important to everyone present. But she was seriously injured and unconscious. She was about to die, but no one could save her. Long Yunxiao clenched his fists and looked down at the ground. His heart was filled with regret. Chu Tianzi and Xiang Wuji's mood was as heavy as their faces, but they couldn't do anything. At this moment, Ji Tianqing stood up and looked at Xiang Wuji with determination. "Old master, let me try. Maybe I can save senior sister and help her get rid of the demonic qi." Hearing what he said, Xiang Wuji, Chu Tianzi and Long Yunxiao all looked at him and frowned. "You? How can you save her? Do you have a divine item or secret treasure? Or a divine bloodline?" Faced with their doubts, Ji Tianqing decided not to hide it anymore. In order to save Yunyao, he had to tell the truth. "I have the Kenshin bloodline. The Kenshin bloodline is higher than the heavenly bloodline. It should be a real divine bloodline." Hearing this, Xiang Wuji, Chu Tianzi and Long Yunxiao widened their eyes in disbelief. Suddenly, the secret room became completely silent. It was so quiet that even a needle dropping on the ground could be heard. The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing in shock. They couldn't accept this result. Unbelievable. After a few breaths, the three of them came to their senses. "You have the Kenshin bloodline? Are you a descendant of the Kenshin?" Although the three of them asked the same question at the same time, their feelings were completely different. Xiang Wuji and Chu Tianzi were ecstatic and couldn't believe it. Other than being shocked, Long Yunxiao's feelings were complicated and sour. They had all heard of the legends of the Kenshin and knew what the Kenshin bloodline meant. Ji Tianqing didn't admit that he was a descendant of the Kenshin, nor did he explain anything. He said calmly, "Old master, let's not waste any time. Hurry up and teach me how to save senior sister." "Okay." Good. Xiang Wuji hurriedly nodded his head, his face full of joy as he pulled him over to the frost ice jade bed. Chu Tianzi also clenched his fists and murmured excitedly, "This is great. I was right about Tianqing. No wonder he is so talented. He is a descendant of the Kenshin. Since Ji Tianqing had the Kenshin bloodline, it would be much easier to save Yunyao. The Kenshin bloodline was a real divine bloodline. He only needed to use 20% of his bloodline power to get rid of the demonic qi in Yunyao's body." Ji Tianqing sat by the ice jade bed and activated the Kenshin bloodline. He forced a drop of golden blood from his right index finger and dripped it on Yunyao's forehead. Chapter 404. This drop of God blood was extremely powerful and exuded an extremely holy aura. The drop of God's blood fell on Yunyao's forehead, and immediately wormed its way into her forehead without a sound, entering her sea of consciousness. Then, the golden divine blood merged with her blood and quickly spread out, flowing to her limbs, bones, and other parts of her body. The holy and powerful Kenshin blood was like the scorching sun in the middle of summer. It was blinding and dazzling. Meanwhile, the demonic qi and ghost qi in Yunyao's body were like ice and snow in winter. They quickly melted when they came into contact with the Kenshin blood. In just a few seconds, Yunyao's mind and soul returned to normal. The demonic qi that had invaded her mind had all disappeared. Then, the black qi on her pale face disappeared at a visible rate. She quickly returned to normal. The demonic qi and ghost qi hidden in her body also disappeared at an extremely fast rate. Not only was the Kenshin blood powerful, but it also had a heaven-defying self-healing ability. An hour later, the demonic qi and ghost qi in Yunyao's body were all removed. She was finally out of danger and out of danger. The power of the Kenshin blood was not used up yet. It merged deeply into her blood and quickly healed her injuries, helping her to repair her damaged heavenly spirit's sacred body bloodline. Ji Tianqing suddenly lost 20% of his bloodline power. His vital energy was instantly damaged. His body was a bit weak. He had to rest for half a month before he could return to normal. However, he only felt gratified and happy. He looked at the unconscious Yunyao gently and felt a strong sense of closeness. Yunyao had merged with his bloodline. The two of them were truly connected by blood. They were extremely close. He could vaguely feel Yunyao's heartbeat and emotions. He felt as if he was breathing with her and sharing her fate. From this moment on, Yunyao became one of the closest and most important people in his life. Xiang Wuji, Chu Tiansheng, and Long Yunshao watched Yunyao's injuries quickly heal with their own eyes. They were filled with shock and amazement. In just a short hour, Yunyao had returned to normal. However, her injuries had not healed yet. She was still unconscious. Xiang Wuji used his power to check on her condition and said excitedly, "This is too amazing. The Kenshin bloodline is indeed a god-tier bloodline. It's the real god bloodline." In just a short hour, the demonic qi and ghost qi in Yunyao's body have been completely removed. Furthermore, the Kenshin bloodline power is helping her recover. At most, she will be unconscious for a day or two, then she will be back to normal. Chu Tianqing's face was full of excitement as he praised repeatedly, "It's a great fortune for my Sky Pillar sect to have Tianheng. Yunyao's help." He was speaking from the bottom of his heart. However, when Long Yunshao heard these words, he didn't feel very good. His feelings were very complicated. Of course, he would think too much and make some connections. He mistakenly thought that Chu Tiansheng was hinting that Ji Tianqing and Yunyao were a fated couple. They were a match made in heaven. However, he quickly suppressed the hundreds of distracting thoughts in his heart and revealed a gratified smile. He nodded at Ji Tianqing and said, "Ji Tianqing, thank you." No matter what, Yunyao was out of danger. That was the best result for him. The huge rock that had been hanging in his heart had finally been lifted. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and said expressionlessly, "It's my duty to save senior sister. Why do I need your thanks?" What he meant was, senior sister and I are in love. It's natural for me to save her. What's your relationship with her? Do I need you to thank me for her? Long Yunxiao naturally understood the meaning of Ji Tianqing's words. He frowned and didn't say anything. Then, Chu Tianqing said to Long Yunxiao, Son of Heaven, Yunyao's injuries are no longer serious. You don't have to worry. Go back and rest. Yunyao is still unconscious. She will stay here to recuperate for the time being. Long Yunxiao nodded and said solemnly, Sect leader Chu, I didn't expect that the Blood Demon King would come personally. Judging from all kinds of signs, the demon clan must have a great plan. It's very likely that they will make a big move. You have to be careful. Chu Tiansheng was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, he thought of something, and a light flashed in his eyes. Okay, I will be on guard. Long Yunxiao didn't say anything more. He turned around and left the secret room. Chu Tiansheng looked at Ji Tianqing again and said with concern, Tianqing, you just used your bloodline power. Your body must be very weak. Go back and recuperate. Leave the rest to me and the Grand Elder. You don't have to worry about it. Ji Tianqing nodded to show that he understood. He originally wanted to ask Chu Tiansheng and Xiang Wuji to keep it a secret and not reveal the fact that he had the Kenshin bloodline. However, he thought that Chu Tiansheng and Xiang Wuji would definitely not reveal the news. He bowed to the two of them and left the secret room. Then, he returned to the Tianqing courtyard to recuperate. The secret room quieted down. Chu Tianqing's expression became calm again, but his eyes were a little serious. Martial uncle, the Blood Demon King hasn't shown up for many years. This time, he came personally and even asked Granny Ghost to help him. He will definitely make a big move. Xiang Wuji nodded slightly and said in a low voice, That's right. I am also worried about this. Chu Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he asked, Previously, General Li and a few elders worked together and found the demon clan's high priest and Blood Moon Infanta in the mountains outside our gate. Unfortunately, the high priest was too cunning. He escaped with serious injuries. General Li and a few elders only caught Blood Moon Infanta. Blood Moon Infanta is the Blood Demon King's daughter. She should know about the Blood Demon King's scheme. How about I torture her and force her to tell me about the Blood Demon King's plan? Xiang Wuji thought for a moment and shook his head. The demon clan is very unyielding. I am afraid that you will not be able to get any useful information from her. Let's talk about this later. Right now, I am worried that the Blood Demon King will attack our sect's sealing array and the 9-dragon spiritual pulse. How about this? I will go to the underground cave now and check the sealing array. You go and check our sect's 9-dragon spiritual pulse. See if there are any abnormalities. Okay. Chu Tiansheng nodded immediately. Then, the two of them left the secret room and went their separate ways. Xiang Wuji went to the underground cave to check the 9-dragon trapping demon array and the sealing array from 1,000 years ago. Chu Tiansheng went deep underground to check the situation of the 9-dragon spiritual pulse. 6 hours later, it was already evening. Xiang Wuji checked the underground cave several times but did not find any abnormalities. The 9-dragon trapping demon array was not invaded or destroyed. It was just that its power was slightly weakened. At this moment, Chu Tiansheng found some clues in the 9-dragon spiritual pulse deep underground. He found a secret array in the depths of the spiritual pulse. It was operating silently. This small array was the hidden star array of the heaven origin level. It had the effect of hiding one's aura and hiding the truth. Chapter 405. Chu Tiansheng was both a divine prime expert and an array master. The hidden star array was just an ordinary divine prime array. It was not a problem for him. In just 2 hours, he had cracked the hidden star array and removed the illusion created by the hidden star array. The grayish-brown rock layer disappeared and revealed its original appearance. It was a few grayish-brown boulders. Chu Tiansheng stared at the boulders. After a moment of careful observation, he found a silver crystal the size of an egg from a crack in the boulder. The silver crystal shone brightly and exuded a vast amount of spiritual qi. Chu Tianxing held the silver crystal and looked at it. His face immediately changed and a cold light flashed in his eyes. It's a spiritual soul crystal. Someone hid the spiritual soul crystal in the 9-dragon spiritual vein and secretly devoured the power of the spiritual vein. No wonder I sensed that the 9-dragon spiritual vein had become much weaker. It must be that despicable bastard blood demon king who did it. Chu Tianxing was so angry that his face turned green. His whole body was filled with cold killing intent. Unfortunately, the spiritual soul crystal had caused great damage to the 9-dragon spiritual vein and absorbed 30% of its power. Chu Tianxing could not repair the 9-dragon spiritual vein quickly. He could only let the spiritual vein recover slowly. He checked again to make sure there was no other array or abnormality in the depths of the spiritual vein. Then he left the underground and returned to the Red Cloud Peak. When night fell, Chu Tianxing returned to his secret chamber. Xiang Wuji was waiting in the secret chamber. When he saw Chu Tianxing return, he quickly asked, "Chu Tianxing, how is it?" Chu Tianxing's face was gloomy. He took out the spiritual soul crystal and gave it to him. He said in a deep voice, "I found a small hidden star array in the depths of the spiritual vein. This spiritual soul crystal is hidden in it. The 9-dragon spiritual vein has been damaged. 30% of its power has been devoured. I'm afraid it will take 3 months for it to recover. Ever since someone sneaked into the 9-dragon cave, I've been checking the 9-dragon spiritual vein every few days for more than a month. I haven't found anything unusual. It seems that the hidden star array and this spiritual soul crystal were set up in the past few days." Xiang Wuji's expression changed as well. He reached out and took the soul crystal. After observing it for a while, he said coldly, "Luckily you discovered it in time. If you were a few days later, the power of the 9-dragon spiritual veins would weaken and our sect's foundation would be greatly affected. In the past few days, all the sect leaders and the emperor have been in our sect. Who is so arrogant to take advantage of this opportunity to tamper with our sect's spirit veins?" Chu Tianxing frowned and said in a deep voice, "I suspected the Tianjian sect before, but now it seems that it was done by the Blood Demon King." Xiang Wuji gritted his teeth in anger and cursed, "Blood Demon King, that disgusting worm, one day I will turn him into ashes." Chu Tianxing narrowed his eyes, which were filled with killing intent. "Martial uncle, I think it's necessary to interrogate the Blood Moon Infanta and see what other schemes the Blood Demon Lord has." "Yes." Xiang Wuji nodded in agreement. "I'll leave this matter to you. You can use any means necessary to deal with the remaining demons." After the two finished their discussion, they left the secret room and went about their own business. East of Flame Spirit City, on a mountain peak 600 miles away, there was a gloomy cave in the middle of the mountain, which contained strands of demonic mist and eerie ghost chi. In the depths of the cave, there were 2 dark green millstones. The Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost each sat on a large stone and were silently healing their injuries. After they left Flame Spirit City, they had no place to hide for the time being. They could only find a cave in the wilderness as a place to stay. The cave was silent. The Blood Demon King was surrounded by black mist, while Granny Ghost was surrounded by green flames. Both of them were quickly healing their injuries. At this moment, a tall and burly figure suddenly flew in from outside the cave. It was the High Priest. His body was covered with hideous wounds and stained with purple blood. He looked very miserable, and his expression and eyes were extremely anxious. When he arrived at the entrance of the cave, he saw that there was a defensive array set up. He reported loudly, "Lord Demon King, I request to see you. I have urgent news to report." The Blood Demon King in the depths of the cave heard the High Priest's voice. He waved his hand and shot out a ray of blood light, activating the defensive array at the entrance of the cave. Swoosh! A dark red light flashed across the pitch-black entrance of the cave, and the invisible array barrier was removed. The high priest hurriedly rushed into the cave and came before the Blood Demon King. He anxiously bowed and reported, "Lord Demon King, something bad has happened. The princess has been captured." The Blood Demon King immediately frowned and asked in a low voice, "High priest, what's going on? Speak clearly." The high priest bowed and said angrily, "Lord Demon King, I and the princess have been lurking outside the Sky Pillar sect for the past 2 days, secretly observing the Sky Pillar sect's movements. Who knew that the Imperial Court's Imperial General would bring a few elders of the Sky Pillar sect to search around the Sky Pillar sect and discover us? I and the princess fought and fled, but we were not their match at all. The princess was captured by them and brought back to the Sky Pillar sect. I was heavily injured and luckily escaped. Lord Demon King, quickly think of a way. We have to rescue the princess as soon as possible." The Blood Demon King frowned and thought for a moment with a cold expression. He shook his head and said, "All the sect masters are gathered in the Sky Pillar sect. There are now many powerhouses in the Sky Pillar sect, and the security is tight. We must not rashly enter the Sky Pillar sect. Otherwise, we will be walking into a trap and affect our revival plan." The high priest's body trembled. He frowned and asked, "Then, are we not going to save the princess? The people of the Sky Pillar sect will definitely torture the princess and force her to tell us our plan. The princess might even be executed by them." The Blood Demon King said expressionlessly, "Shui, you will not reveal our plan. I believe in her." The high priest fell silent. He knew that the Blood Demon King had given up on the princess. At this moment, the Blood Demon King closed his eyes and moved his fingers. He used some kind of demonic secret technique as if he was probing and sensing something. A moment later, he opened his eyes and grinned coldly. "Hee, it's just as I expected. The array formation and spirit soul crystals that I buried in the 9-dragon spirit vein were discovered by them so quickly." The high priest's expression suddenly changed and he asked anxiously, "Then, didn't our plan fail again?" The Blood Demon King sneered and said in a mocking tone, "Humph. How could a trap set up by this king fail? The hidden star array and the soul crystal in the spiritual vein were just a facade to confuse them. They broke the hidden star array and took away the soul crystal. They thought that everything was fine. They didn't expect that I also planted the soul-devouring curse in the 9-dragon spiritual vein. Those of you who didn't vote, please vote for him, please." Chapter 406. The Soul Devourer Curse was one of the strongest curse techniques passed down in the Blood Demon tribe for thousands of years. Using this curse technique required extremely harsh conditions and a lot of effort and time. However, once the Soul Devourer Curse was planted, its power was extremely terrifying. The Sky Pillar sect would never discover this curse planted in the 9-dragon spirit vein, and it would definitely cause an irreversible and destructive blow. Granny Ghost was originally resting with her eyes closed, silently healing her injuries. When she heard the Blood Demon King say the word Soul Devourer Curse, she immediately opened her eyes, revealing a look of surprise. "Blood Demon King, you actually used the Soul Devourer Curse? Have you been preparing for this for a long time?" The Blood Demon King nodded. "That's right. As early as 20 years ago, this king sacrificed 900 demon tribe citizens and absorbed their souls and blood essence, using a secret technique to nurture the Soul Devourer Curse. This king did this to destroy the 9-dragon spirit vein of the Sky Pillar sect, destroy the seal formation, and save His Majesty the Demon King. However, the Soul Devourer Curse has been planted in the 9-dragon spirit vein, but it still needs a demon seed to activate the power of the Soul Devourer Curse." "Demon seed?" Granny Ghost narrowed her eyes and asked in shock, "This is a forbidden technique of the demon tribe. Only a demon with a pure bloodline and outstanding talent can become a qualified demon seed after being implanted with a demon core. And those who become demon seeds will sacrifice their lives and souls, never to be reincarnated or reincarnated. With such a tragic price to activate the power of the Soul Devourer Curse, it naturally has the power to destroy heaven and earth." The high priest was also shocked. He didn't expect the Blood Demon King to be so scheming and unscrupulous in order to revive the demon tribe. Night fell. In the heavenly river palace on the crimson firmament peak, the emperor's bedroom. Long Yunxiao was sitting in front of a table, frowning and pondering with a solemn expression. There was a cup of spirit tea on the table. It was brought by General Li, but he didn't drink a single sip. General Li stood to the side with a respectful expression. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he looked very worried. Emperor, the situation in the heavenly stellar region is far more complicated and dangerous than we imagined. The Blood Demon King has personally made a move, and he also has the help of Granny Ghost, whose strength is on par with his. We are simply powerless to eliminate them. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said in a low voice, "That's right. The situation has developed beyond my expectations. Soon, a calamity will befall the ancient realm of stars. This monarch is no match for Blood Demon King and Ghost Granny. Continuing to stay here is of no use. Therefore, I've decided to leave early tomorrow morning and return to the Imperial Court of the Central Continent as soon as possible to report the situation and news of the ancient star realm to the Emperor." General Li nodded and continued, "Son of Heaven, Ji Tianxing has the blood of Kenshin. This matter is of great importance. Do you think we should report this news to the Emperor as soon as possible? If the Emperor and the Imperial Tutor were to know about this, they would definitely..." Without waiting for him to finish, Long Yunxiao frowned and said in a deep voice, "No need. This information needs to be kept a secret for now. It must not be leaked." General Li was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand Long Yunxiao's intentions. But he knew very well that since the Emperor had decided to keep it a secret, there must be a corresponding reason. At this moment, Long Yunxiao stood up and walked out of the hall. "General Li, follow this monarch to the Tianqing courtyard. Before we leave, this monarch wants to see him." General Li, of course, followed Long Yunxiao out of the Empyrean River Palace and rushed to the Tianqing courtyard. Half an hour later, Long Yunxiao brought General Li to the Tianqing courtyard. Under the night sky, the Tianqing courtyard was quiet and serene. Long Yunxiao and General Li were led by the maid Xiao Shuang into the living room to wait. Before long, Ji Tianqing finished his cultivation and walked into the living room. He sat down on the main seat and looked at Long Yunxiao with a calm expression. "May I know why the Emperor has come to visit this late at night?" Long Yunxiao looked at him expressionlessly and said in an indifferent tone, "Ji Tianqing, this monarch will return to the Imperial Court tomorrow. I came this time to tell you this. In half a year, the Imperial Court will appoint this monarch to choose a heavenly consort. After thinking about it, this monarch has decided to choose Yunyao as his heavenly consort. If Yunyao is chosen, she will officially become this monarch's heavenly consort in a year." "What?" Ji Tianqing's expression suddenly changed and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Didn't you say before that you wouldn't force Yunyao and would compete with me fairly? Why are you suddenly going back on your word now and using the Imperial Court's power and identity to force Yunyao?" Long Yunxiao said in a deep voice without changing his expression. "This monarch misjudged you before and mistakenly thought that Yunyao was moved by you. You must have some redeeming qualities that are worth entrusting her life to. However, after the battle in Yanling City, this monarch realized that you are not worthy of her at all. In this chaotic world, only those who are strong enough can protect their loved ones and partners. Without strength, everything is just empty talk. With your current strength, you can't even protect yourself. How can you protect Yunyao? This monarch will never give Yunyao to you on a silver platter. Only this monarch's status and the power of the Imperial Court can protect her for the rest of her life." Long Yunxiao's tone was cold and solemn. It was resolute and contained an unquestionable domineering aura. Ji Tianqing immediately revealed a disdainful look and sneered. "Huh, I misjudged you too. Before this, I thought that you were an upright gentleman worthy of respect. I didn't expect you to go back on your words and be so capricious. What's the difference between you and those lowly flies in the secular world?" Long Yunxiao was still expressionless. General Li was already faintly angry and stared at him coldly. Ji Tianqing's tone was cold and powerful as he continued. That's right. With my current strength, if you force Yunyao to be your heavenly consort, I really can't compete with you. However, half a year later, when you choose Yunyao to be your heavenly consort, I will definitely be there personally and take Yunyao back from you. Since I, Ji Tianqing, have already decided on her, I will marry no one but her in this life. Even the heavenly king can't take her away from me. Generally could no longer suppress his anger. He shouted in a deep voice, "How dare you? Ji Tianqing, how dare you? How dare you speak so arrogantly to the emperor?" Ji Tianqing didn't even look at General Li and completely ignored him. He stared at Long Yunshao and sneered arrogantly. "Huh, so what if you're the emperor? You're just born into a good family and noble family. Half a year later, you may not be as good as me." Long Yunshao frowned and stared at him fiercely. "Very good. Ji Tianqing, I always thought that you were reserved and inarticulate. I didn't expect you to have such an arrogant side. Half a year later, I will choose Yunyao to be my heavenly consort at the Apocalypse Pagoda in the Imperial Court. Since you are so arrogant, I will wait for you at the Apocalypse Pagoda. At that time, you and I will have a fair duel in front of all the powerful cultivators in the world. If you lose, Yunyao will be my heavenly consort. If you can defeat me, I will voluntarily withdraw and never pester Yunyao again. I want to see how much you can grow in just half a year and whether you are qualified to duel with me." Ji Tianqing's face was cold as he said in a serious tone, "Long Yunshao, remember what you said tonight. Half a year later, I will defeat you at the Apocalypse Pagoda with my own hands." Ji Tianqing and Long Yunshao stood opposite each other. Both of them were exuding strong confidence and battle intent. Long Yunshao said coldly, "I will wait for you." Chapter 407. Half an hour later, Long Yunshao brought General Li back to the Milky Way Palace. As soon as they returned to the bedchamber, General Li hurriedly asked, "Emperor, you know that Ji Tianqing has the Kenshin bloodline and is closely related to the Kenshin bloodline. Why are you still at odds with him?" Long Yunshao glanced at him and said calmly, "It's just a duel with him in the Apocalypse Tower. It's not a battle to the death. I can see that he truly loves Yunyao. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such arrogant words. If I don't anger him and pressure him, how can he grow so quickly? How can he protect Yunyao in the future?" General Li hesitated for a while and said with a frown, "But he has the Kenshin bloodline after all. The Kenshin bloodline is divine blood. How powerful is it? In half a year, his strength will increase tremendously. He might even reach the ethereal realm." Long Yunshao smiled and said calmly, "If he can really reach the ethereal realm in half a year, I'll be happy for him. Now, he's a nobody with a low status. He's not worthy of the eldest daughter of the Cloud Soul Palace, Yunyao. If he can defeat me in the Apocalypse Tower, he'll become famous and be a good match for Yunyao. The Cloud Soul Palace will accept him. Also, the Imperial Tutor has observed the stars and predicted that there will be great changes in Zhongzhou soon. Zhongzhou has been peaceful for thousands of years. When the time comes, there might be a bloodbath and the chaos from thousands of years ago will be reborn. Ji Tianqing has to become a true powerhouse to be worthy of Yunyao's trust." General Li frowned and said worriedly, "Emperor, if Ji Tianqing becomes famous by stepping on you, you'll be criticized and mocked by the world. You're the emperor, the heir to the imperial court. Your reputation and dignity are sacred and cannot be blasphemed." Long Yunshao chuckled and said, "Haha. That's just a title. Don't worry about it. If the world wants to criticize and mock me, then let them mock me. As long as Yunyao can be entrusted to a good person and be happy for the rest of her life, so what if I become a laughingstock?" This. General Li was at a loss for words for a moment. He said emotionally, "Emperor, you've been secretly supporting Cloud Spirit Palace for the past few years. I wonder how much effort you've put in for Miss Yunyao. Now, you've turned against Ji Tianqing on the surface, but in fact, you're doing this for Miss Yunyao's lifelong happiness. You're so infatuated with Miss Yunyao. You're willing to give up everything for her, but she doesn't know anything. Is it worth it? Long Yunxiao revealed a faint smile and leisurely said, generally, you only know how to fight on the battlefield, but you don't understand the meaning of love. I loved her deeply, so I gave up everything for her without any complaints or regrets. I just wanted to see her happy and carefree for the rest of her life. As for whether she can understand me or care about me, that's not important. He stared at the hazy moonlight outside the window with a tranquil smile on his handsome face. His voice was soft and distant, clearly revealing his heartfelt thoughts. Generally seemed to feel something, but he was confused and couldn't understand Long Yunxiao's feelings. He couldn't help but scratch his head and fall silent. In the middle of the night, halfway up the back mountain of Scarlet Firmament Peak, a black shadow was rapidly moving forward. This person was dressed in black and wore a veil over his face, revealing only a pair of cold and resentful eyes. His body was thin and weak, but his movements were as light as the wind. He shuttled through the forest path without making the slightest sound. A moment later, he felt his way near a dark cave. He hid in the dark forest and quietly observed the entrance of the cave. That cave was dug and built by the Sky Pillar sect to imprison criminals. A dim yellow lantern was lit at the entrance of the cave. Several armored guards were standing on both sides of the cave entrance. The black-clothed man observed for a while and saw that the cave entrance was heavily guarded. He couldn't force his way in, so he quietly retreated. He went into the depths of the forest and took out an earth escape talisman from his spatial ring. Then, he silently burrowed into the ground and sneaked into the cave. About 7 minutes later, he entered the depths of the cave and groped his way through a pitch-black passage. Although there were guards at intervals in the cave and hidden weapons were set up, the black-clothed man was very familiar with the cave. However, the man in black was very familiar with the situation in the cave. He cleverly avoided several checkpoints and reached the deepest part of the cave. He entered a spacious cave and observed the situation inside with his keen eyes. He saw that there were several secret rooms carved into the surrounding rock walls. The stone doors were tightly shut and were set up with formations. The black-clothed man quickly chose a secret room on the left. Using his attainments in formations, he quickly opened the stone door of the secret room. Swoosh! He passed through the stone door as fast as a gust of wind and entered the dark secret room. He saw that a dim yellow stone lantern was lit in the dark and cold secret room. On the rock wall facing the door, there were several rows of bowl-sized iron stakes nailed to it. Several cold iron chains as thick as an arm were tied to it. A tall woman in black was tied to the chains. The black-clothed woman was 2 meters tall. She had long red hair and dark red eyes. She was the Blood Moon Infanta of the Demon Clan. Her limbs and body were shackled by cold iron chains. She was also set up with a ceiling formation. She couldn't move at all. Moreover, her body was covered with wounds and stained with dark purple blood. She looked very miserable. Sensing that someone had sneaked into the secret room, she was immediately awakened. She stared at the black-clothed man with vigilance and shouted in a low voice, "Who are you?" The black-clothed man gestured for her to be silent. Then, he slowly pulled down the mask on his face, revealing a sickly pale face. When the Blood Moon Infanta saw his appearance, she was shocked. "Bai Wuchen? It's you. What do you want to do?" After the Blood Moon Infanta was captured, she had been locked in this cell. A few hours ago, Chu Tianxing had personally come to the cell and tortured her until she was on the verge of death. She knew that she couldn't escape, so she clenched her teeth and refused to say anything. She would rather die than reveal the Blood Demon Lord's plan. However, she didn't expect that the Sky Pillar sect's disciple, Bai Wuchen, would sneak into the secret room in black clothes. Bai Wuchen looked at her coldly and said with his spiritual sense, "I came here in the middle of the night to save you." The Blood Moon Infanta frowned in disbelief. "Bai Wuchen, we are enemies, not friends. Why do you want to save me?" Bai Wuchen didn't answer her question. He said with a gloomy face, "I can save you, but you have to promise me one thing." "What is it?" The Blood Moon Infanta asked in a low voice. Bai Wuqian's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. He said with resentment, "After you get out, you must kill Ji Tianqing." Chapter 408. Bai Wuqian took a deep look at Blood Moon Infanta and said coldly, "Blood Moon, remember what you said." Then, he waved his hands and shot out true essence. He used his array formation technique to open the array formation on the cold iron chain. Although he was now a janitor disciple, he was once an elite disciple of the sky-bearing sect. He knew many secrets of the sky-bearing sect, including the sealing array in this secret chamber. After a short 15 minutes, Bai Wuqian activated the sealing array on the cold iron chain and unlocked the chain. Blood Moon Infanta finally regained her freedom. She broke free from the shackles of the cold iron chain and landed on the ground. She twisted her neck and limbs to move her stiff body. Bai Wuqian put on his mask again and took out 2 Earth Escape talismans. He handed one to Blood Moon Infanta and said in a low voice, "Follow me. I'll take you out now." After they left the secret chamber, they immediately used the Earth Escape talisman to drill into the mountain wall and escape from the cave. 15 minutes later, they successfully escaped from the cave and came out from a forest halfway up the mountain. "Blood Moon Infanta, you must kill Ji Tianqing. It's best if you don't let him die with an intact corpse," Bai Wuqian warned in a vicious tone. Then, he quietly left the forest and disappeared into the night. Now that Ji Tianqing's strength had skyrocketed, he was no longer a match for Ji Tianqing. He couldn't incite the emperor to kill Ji Tianqing, so he could only place his hope on Blood Moon Infanta. Even though Blood Moon Infanta was from the demon race and had a blood feud with the human race, they were irreconcilable. However, in order to kill Ji Tianqing and take revenge, he had already disregarded everything and resorted to unscrupulous means. Blood Moon Infanta couldn't understand why Bai Wuqian hated Ji Tianqing so much. But she was too lazy to think about it. She quickly left the dark forest and escaped to the foot of the mountain under the cover of the night. Not long after, she found a cave at the foot of the mountain and hid in it for the time being. There are many experts in the sky-bearing sect. It's heavily guarded and there's also a mountain protecting array. Without the smoky umbrella, it'll be hard for me to escape. Why don't I contact Father first? Perhaps Father has a way to save me. The Blood Moon Infanta calculated in her heart. She hurriedly took out a fist-sized black crystal from her interspatial ring. This piece of crystal was engraved with mysterious patterns and runes. It contained a mysterious power. The Blood Moon Infanta cast a demonic path secret technique and injected her demonic power into the crystal. Demonic mist immediately gushed out of the crystal, and a dark red image appeared. The image of the Blood Demon King appeared. He was sitting on a millstone, holding a black crystal in his hand. "Blood Moon, you're actually able to contact me? Could it be that you're already out of danger?" Hearing the Blood Demon King's voice, the Blood Moon Infanta was somewhat excited and anxious. She hurriedly said in a low voice, "Father, I have already escaped from the prison cell. There are many experts in the Sky Pillar sect, and there's a large array protecting it. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for me to escape safely. I'm still hiding in the Sky-bearing sect. Royal Father, how is your situation?" The Blood Demon Monarch pondered for a moment before whispering, "Blood Moon, don't be in a hurry to escape from the Sky Pillar sect for the time being. Now that you're hiding in the Sky Pillar sect, it's a rare opportunity. Ji Tianqing, that little bastard, actually has the Kenshin bloodline. Go and capture him. I want to seize his bloodline. If you can't capture him alive, then kill him and bring his corpse back to me." Hearing this, the Blood Moon Infanta was stunned for a moment, and her brows furrowed tightly. She vaguely felt that her royal father's order was somewhat hasty. However, the Blood Demon King's expression was dignified, and his tone was solemn as he said, "Blood Moon, this is my order. For the sake of our revenge, it's worth it for you to put yourself in danger. I will immediately set off and wait for you outside the Sky Pillar sect." The Blood Moon Infanta no longer hesitated and hurriedly nodded. "Royal Father, Blood Moon obeys." After saying that, she withdrew her surging demonic power, and the image on the black crystal also dissipated. She put away the black crystal and quietly left the cave. She quickly traveled through the night and headed toward the Sky Pillar Peak. Inside the cave, the Blood Demon King also slowly withdrew his demonic power and put the black crystal back into his interspatial ring. Granny Ghost looked at him and asked in a low voice, "Blood Demon King, you want to go to the Sky Pillar sect to receive Blood Moon? You're lying to her, right? We've fought with Ji Tianqing before, and we know very well what level his strength has reached. You clearly know that Blood Moon is definitely not Ji Tianqing's opponent, so why did you still let her assassinate Ji Tianqing? Isn't this sending her to her death?" The Blood Demon King was still expressionless, and his tone was indifferent as he said, "The people of the demon race are willing to sacrifice their lives and souls for the sake of our race's revival. Blood Moon, as the princess of our clan and the daughter of the Blood Demon King, should set an example for the people of our clan and contribute to our great plan." Hearing this, Granny Ghost and the High Priestess's expressions changed as they suddenly understood something. The High Priestess's expression was somewhat unsightly as she asked in disbelief, "Lord Demon King, the demonic seed that you're nurturing for your great plan of revenge, could it be Blood Moon Countess?" The Blood Demon King's expression did not change, and his tone was cold as he said, "From the day she was born, this king had implanted a demonic core into her body. This is her destiny. In the past 20 years, she has grown very quickly and has already become a very powerful demonic seed. It's time for her to sacrifice herself for the revival of our race." Granny Ghost's body trembled as she narrowed her eyes and said in a deep voice, "Blood Moon is going to kill Ji Tianqing. She will definitely be surrounded and killed by the Sky Pillar sect. After she dies, she will burn her essence, blood and soul to become a demonic seed, which will activate the power of the spirit-devouring curse and destroy the 9 dragon spirit veins. Blood Demon King, is this the plan that you've been meticulously planning for 20 years? For the sake of the demon race's revival, you're even willing to sacrifice your own daughter? Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. How can you be so cold-blooded and heartless?" The Blood Demon King closed his eyes and said in an indifferent tone, "This king has said that for the sake of the revival of our race, every citizen must have the consciousness to sacrifice their life. This king is no exception." The High Priestess was full of worry and anxiety as she hurriedly advised, "Lord Demon King, please reconsider. Once the Countess turns into a demonic seed, she will never be able to reincarnate." The Blood Demon King coldly glanced at her and said in a low voice, "High Priestess, you talk too much." The High Priestess immediately shut her mouth and silently retreated to the side. Her heart was filled with sorrow as she could only sigh inwardly. The demon race had already been oppressed by the human race and the demon race for thousands of years. They could only hole up in the dark and cold underground, struggling at death's door. If they could not rescue His Majesty the Demon King, it was unknown how long the demon race's miserable situation would last. Now that His Majesty the Demon King had awakened, there was hope that he could break the seal at any time and reappear in the world. This was a crucial opportunity for the demon race. Chapter 409. Tianqing Courtyard was quiet in the wee hours of the morning. Ji Tianqing sat in his room and silently circulated his cultivation. He had fused with the Kenshin bloodline for almost half a month, and his martial Dao foundation had already stabilized. He was steadily increasing his strength and striding towards the 4th level of the Origin Core stage. Long Yunxiao had set a half-a-year agreement with him, and it made him cultivate even more diligently. He vowed to reach the Heaven Origin stage within half a year. But at this moment, a tall black shadow suddenly flashed past the courtyard under the hazy moonlight, and a dark red blood light lit up. Although the blood light flashed and disappeared, Ji Tianqing sensed a trace of bloody devil qi and was instantly awakened. He immediately ended his cultivation and jumped through the window into the courtyard. At the same time, the tall black shadow had already dashed to the corner of the courtyard and was exerting all its strength to jump over 5 meters high and over the courtyard wall. At that moment, Ji Tianqing relied on the hazy moonlight to vaguely see that the tall black shadow was slightly familiar. There's actually devil qi. Could it be the Blood Moon Commandery Princess or the Grand Priest? Wait, isn't the Blood Moon Commandery Princess imprisoned in a prison cell? This thought flashed in Ji Tianqing's mind, and he couldn't help but frown with a heart full of doubts. He jumped over the courtyard wall without hesitation and chased after the tall black shadow. The black shadow's speed was extremely fast. It shuttled through the night and madly dashed towards the foot of the mountain. Ji Tianqing executed the shadowless step and chased with all his strength, and the distance between them was gradually shrinking. After 7 minutes, the two of them rushed down Heaven Pillar Peak and arrived at the dense forest at the foot of the mountain. Within a radius of 6 to 7 miles, it was all gloomy forest and valleys, and there was no one in the surroundings. Only at this moment did the tall black shadow stop and stand under a towering tree. It turned around and looked at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing followed closely and stopped 20 meters away from the black shadow. He used his spiritual sense to investigate the black shadow, and only then did he recognize that it was a female devil covered in scars. It was the Blood Moon Commandery Princess. Ji Tianqing's face was instantly filled with surprise, and he shouted in disbelief, "Blood Moon Commandery Princess? Why are you here? You were clearly captured by our sex elders and locked in a secret chamber in the cave. How did you manage to escape?" The Blood Moon Infanta's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. She grinned and said, "Not only did I escape, but I will also take your life tonight. When I first met you, I should have killed you at all costs. I really regret letting you live until now. You've ruined my clan's plans time and time again." Ji Tianqing's face also turned gloomy, his eyes surging with killing intent as he coldly shouted, "Shui Yu! You bloody she-devil! Over the past few months, you've repeatedly injured me and almost caused me to lose my life several times. But things are different now. Since you've walked right into my trap, I'll kill you with my own hands and take my revenge." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body surged with cold killing intent, and surging true essence accumulated in his palms. "Witch! Die!" He let out a low roar filled with killing intent. He waved his palms and shot out 2 5-meter-long golden sword lights. They attacked the Blood Moon Infanta from the left and right. Wind and thunder strike. The golden sword lights cut through the night sky and attacked the Blood Moon Infanta from the left and right. The golden light and the fierce wind mixed together, and the 2 sword lights converged into an 8-meter-long giant thunderbolt that struck down with a loud bang. Facing his attack, the Blood Moon Infanta still sneered disdainfully and said, "Ha ha ha. Little bastard, you want to kill me? Dream on." As she spoke, she also exploded with her lifetime's power. Her palms lit up with a dense bloody light, which condensed into 2 giant bloody hands. Heart Destruction Palm. She waved her palms as fast as lightning, and instantly shot out 38 giant bloody palms, which formed a bloody wall in front of her. Boom! The huge golden sword light slashed the wall of blood light and exploded with a loud bang, echoing in the forest. The sword light was shattered into pieces, and the bloody wall formed by the giant bloody palms was also smashed into pieces and quickly dissipated. The two of them exchanged blows, and unexpectedly, they were evenly matched. Neither of them had the upper hand. The Blood Moon Infanta frowned. Only now did she realize that Ji Tianqing's strength had skyrocketed to the origin core stage. Humph. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. It turns out that you have reached the origin core stage. However, even so, you are still no match for me. Go to hell. The Blood Moon Infanta snorted disdainfully. Her figure turned into a cloud of black fog, and she rushed toward Ji Tianqing as fast as the wind. Swish! In the blink of an eye, she rushed to the front of Ji Tianqing, waved her giant bloody palms, and fiercely slapped toward his head. Ji Tianqing immediately used the shadowless step to dodge the attack. At the same time, he exerted all his power to release a 10-meter-long flaming sword light. Crimson Dragon Flash. The giant flaming sword light was surrounded by crimson flames, and it was like a flaming divine dragon. The sword light contained a terrifying power, and it was as fast as an aurora, tearing the night sky apart, and blasted toward the Blood Moon Infanta. The Blood Moon Infanta was caught off guard, and she had no time to dodge. Her expression changed drastically, and fear and hatred appeared in her eyes. She repeatedly waved her palms toward the flaming sword light, trying to shatter it. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds were heard, and her giant bloody palms were shattered. However, the power of the flaming sword light was not reduced at all. In the next moment, she was hit by the flaming sword light. Her body was engulfed by the crimson flames, and she was sent flying backward. Plop! The Blood Moon Infanta fell into the woods 10 meters away, and two big trees were broken. Her clothes and hair were burned black by the crimson flames, and there was a giant wound on her left shoulder. It was so deep that the bone could be seen. Fortunately, she dodged sideways in time. Otherwise, her entire left arm would have been cut off by this sword. The piercing pain made her face twist, and cold sweat broke out all over her body. She struggled to stand up, and stared at Ji Tianqing with resentment. She shouted coldly, "Ji Tianqing! You damn little bastard, I will tear you to pieces." Ji Tianqing rushed toward her with a gloomy face. He did not talk nonsense with her, and once again exerted all his power to release a giant sword light. Water flow split. The dazzling golden sword light was 10 meters long. It was like a giant blade that could split the sky and the earth, and it covered the Blood Moon Infanta's body. At the critical moment, she jumped to the side awkwardly and rolled into the thistles and thorns. Boom! The giant sword light hit the grassland, creating a giant ditch that was more than 10 meters long on the ground. Dust and grass flew everywhere. The Blood Moon Infanta had just climbed up from the thistles and did not have time to retreat. At this moment, she heard Ji Tianqing's angry shout. Shatter the mountains and rivers. Ji Tianqing's body was covered with dazzling golden and red flames. His body kept flashing around her, and he waved his palms to release hundreds and thousands of sword lights. The overwhelming golden light and flaming sword lights shrouded an area of 20 meters around her, making it impossible for her to escape. Boom! In the deafening sound, thousands of sword lights exploded with their strongest power at the same time. They turned into endless golden and red brilliance, and drowned the whole area. Chapter 410. Of course, the Blood Moon Infanta's fate was not any better. Ji Tianqing's shatter of mountains and rivers made her unable to resist or evade it. When the thousands of sword rays exploded with their strongest power, she was also wounded all over. Purple blood spurted out from her body as she fell to the ground in a sorry state. After a while, the dazzling flames dissipated, and darkness returned to the forest. Everything within 50 meters was affected by the power of the shatter of mountains and rivers and turned into black scorched ruins. All the flowers and trees were turned into ashes and scattered in the scarred ruins. Ji Tianqing stood in the middle of the ruins and stared coldly at the Blood Moon Infanta in front of him. The Blood Moon Infanta was lying on the ground with blood all over her body. Her body was constantly twitching, but she was powerless to get up. There wasn't a single inch of her body that wasn't damaged. She was covered in wounds, and both her arms and left leg had been twisted into pieces. With such serious injuries, she had lost all her fighting power and was completely defeated. However, she glared at Ji Tianqing with an incomparably venomous look in her eyes. She growled in a hoarse voice, "Ji Tianqing. You damned bastard. Even if I die, you won't live for long. My father will definitely avenge me and tear you to shreds. When the Demon Emperor is born, your Sky Pillar sect will not leave anyone alive. Everyone will be turned into ashes and buried with me." Ha ha ha. The Blood Moon Infanta laughed crazily without the slightest fear of death. There was only a monstrous killing intent and hatred. A demoness will always be a demoness. She is devoid of humanity and deserves to die. Ji Tianqing looked at her coldly. A huge sword ray condensed in his palm and slashed toward her head. The Blood Moon Infanta had nowhere to hide. She laughed sinisterly and welcomed the arrival of death. Bang! With a muffled sound, her head was chopped into pieces by the sword ray, and her crazed laughter stopped abruptly. The Blood Moon Infanta died without a trace. The strange thing was that her body spontaneously combusted. Purple flames rose up and emitted a frightening demonic aura. Ji Tianqing looked at this scene expressionlessly. After her body was burned to ashes, he turned and left. However, what he couldn't see was that the Blood Moon Commandery Princess's essence, blood and soul had turned into a demon seed and quietly drilled into the ground. The demonic seed was a black ball the size of a thumb. It was extremely mysterious and hidden. The demon seed burrowed into the ground at the speed of light and entered the 9-dragon spirit vein. Silently, the demonic seed merged with the soul-devouring curse in the 9-dragon spiritual vein, immediately activating the power of the soul-devouring curse. The God-devouring curse released a powerful devouring power that spread throughout the 9-dragon spiritual vein and rapidly devoured its energy. However, the soul-devourer curse was a mysterious and shapeless energy that was impossible to grasp or detect. After Ji Tianqing left the forest at the foot of the mountain, he did not return to the Tianqing courtyard. Instead, he went straight to the Scarlet Firmament Peak. The Blood Moon Infanta was obviously imprisoned in the cell, but she actually escaped. This matter was very strange. Ji Tianqing wanted to report to Chu Tiansheng and investigate this matter. Half an hour later, he climbed up the Scarlet Firmament Peak and entered the towering Sky Hall. Chu Tiansheng was sitting on the sect master's throne. He was frowning and pondering with a gloomy expression. After seeing Ji Tianqing enter the hall, he raised his head and looked at Ji Tianqing. He asked, "Tianqing, why are you not resting in the Tianqing courtyard in the middle of the night? What are you doing here?" Ji Tianqing hurriedly cupped his hands and reported, "Master, I have important news to report." "Oh? What news?" Chu Tiansheng raised his eyebrows. Ji Tianqing answered truthfully, "The Blood Moon Commandery Princess escaped from the cell for some unknown reason. She deliberately broke into the Tianqing courtyard and lured me to the foot of the mountain. She wanted to kill me and take revenge." She actually tried to assassinate you after escaping?" A cold light flashed in Chu Tianqing's eyes. He asked in a low voice, "Are you okay? Did she run away again?" Ji Tianqing shook his head and said, "I am fine. I have already killed the Blood Moon Commandery Princess and her body have turned into black ashes." "That's good." The worry in Chu Tianqing's heart dissipated. He nodded and said, "That demoness has outstanding talent. If you hadn't killed her, she would have become a big trouble in the future." Ji Tianqing continued, "Master, the demoness was obviously imprisoned in the cell. Why did she suddenly escape? I feel that there is something fishy about this matter. I still need to investigate carefully." Chu Tianqing nodded slightly and said in a serious tone, "That's right. I also suspect that there is a traitor in our sect who secretly released the demoness. After the guards in the cell discovered that the demoness had escaped, they have already reported the news. The Supreme Elder has personally come out to investigate. I will wait here for the news. It won't take long for the Supreme Elder to find out the results." Knowing that Xiang Wuji had personally come out to investigate, Ji Tianqing was relieved. He stood in the hall and waited quietly. Time passed quietly. Soon, half an hour had passed. At this moment, Xiang Wuji stepped into the hall with a thin young man in black in his hand. He walked to the center of the hall, waved his hand, and threw the man in black to the ground. There was a muffled thud. The man in black struggled to stand up, trembling with anger and humiliation. However, he didn't dare to turn around and run. After all, his vital energy had been sealed by Xiang Wuji. He was now a weak, ordinary person. Chu Tianqing frowned and looked at the man in black. He asked Xiang Wuji, "Uncle Master, this is?" Xiang Wuji walked to the left side of the hall and sat down. He sneered and said, "I went to the back of the mountain to investigate. I followed the clues and found him. At that time, he was sneaking around and wanted to escape. Guess who the traitor is that secretly released the demoness?" Chu Tianqing frowned and stared at the man in black. His face was cold. Ji Tianqing also felt that the man in black was very familiar. Especially that pair of eyes filled with hatred. It was very memorable. He frowned and thought for a moment. He had an answer in his heart. Bai Wuchen, is it you? As he spoke, he stepped forward and pulled off the man's mask. Swoosh. The mask fell to the ground. Bai Wuchen's face was as pale as paper. However, his ferocious and twisted face was immediately exposed to everyone. He stared at Ji Tianqing and cursed hysterically, "Blood Moon, that bitch. She actually broke her promise and didn't kill you, you beast." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing immediately understood the reason. No wonder Blood Moon Infanta tried to assassinate me. She made an agreement with you. Bai Wuchen, I really didn't expect your mind to be so twisted. In order to kill me, you didn't hesitate to collude with the devil tribe. You don't deserve to be a human. You're the beast that's worse than a pig or a dog. Chu Tianqing was so angry that his face turned ashen. He slapped the armrest of the throne and shouted angrily, "Bai Wuchen. You beast. In the 8 years that you've been in our sect, we've treated you well. The fifth elder has devoted all his efforts to nurture you and treated you as his own. I didn't expect you to do such a despicable thing. How can you face your master, the sect, and your ancestors?" Bai Wuchen probably knew that he would die, so he threw caution to the wind without fear. He stared at Chu Tianqing with a ferocious face and shouted angrily, "I don't need to face others. I only need to face myself. Chu Tianqing, today's situation was caused by you. If you had accepted me as your personal disciple, Ji Tianqing wouldn't have bullied me. How could I have ended up in this situation? Why would I collude with the devil tribe?" Chu Tianqing's face turned black with anger. Murderous intent surged from his body. He shouted angrily, "Beast! You're really a crazy beast. As a human, you colluded with the devil tribe. This is an unforgivable crime." Chapter 411. There was a blood feud between the human race and the demon race that was irreconcilable. Anyone who dared to harbor or collude with the demon race would be sentenced to death. Moreover, after the criminal was executed, his head would be hung in front of the ancestor's statue for 3 days as a warning to others. Following Chu Tianqing's order, the 2 black-robed guards at the entrance of the hall immediately walked in front of Bai Wuchen and dragged him out of the hall. Bai Wuchen struggled with all his might, gritting his teeth as he glared at Ji Tianqing. He roared crazily, "Ji Tianqing. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Don't be so smug. Even if I die, my Bai family won't let you go. They'll definitely avenge me. You'll be buried with me soon. I'll be waiting for you in the underworld. Ha 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 ha." Soon, he was dragged out of the hall and into the square in front of the hall. His bitter laughter gradually faded away. Not long after, with a soft pop, Bai Wuchen was beheaded by a guard. Only then did the outside of the hall quiet down. In the hall, Ji Tianqing, Chu Tianqing, and Xiang Wuji were all silent. The atmosphere was somewhat stifling. In the past few months, the demon race and the Tianjian sect had been secretly colluding. Their frequent actions had put a lot of pressure on the sky-bearing sect. Now, there were traitors and spies in the sky-bearing sect. Chu Tianqing and Xiang Wuji couldn't help but worry. Would something like this happen in the sect again? Would someone disregard the righteousness of the human race and collude with the enemy for personal grudges? After a moment of silence, Xiang Wuji walked in front of Ji Tianqing and handed him the 100 treasures brocade pouch. He said in a low voice, "The little fox and the little black dragon are sleeping. They'll wake up in a few days. At that time, their strength will also return to the origin core realm." Ji Tianqing accepted the 100 treasures brocade pouch and bowed to Xiang Wuji in thanks. Xiang Wuji patted his shoulder and didn't say anything else. He walked out of the sky-bearing palace. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said to Chu Tian, "Master, the Son of Heaven will return to the central state early in the morning. You should prepare in advance. Chu Tiansheng was startled. Obviously, he hadn't expected this. The situation is still chaotic. You want to return to the central continent? Ji Tianqing calmly said, even if he stays here, he won't be able to preside over the overall situation, much less eradicate the demon remnants. Rather than that, he might as well return to the central continent and report the news to the imperial court. Maybe the imperial court will come out and resolve this matter. Chu Tianqing nodded slightly and sighed helplessly, sigh. Now that things have come to this, this is the only way. If the imperial court can come forward to solve this, then things will be much easier. Ji Tianqing didn't say anything more. After cupping his hands to bid farewell, he turned around and walked out of the heaven-raising palace. When he passed by the square in front of the palace, he raised his head and looked at the huge statue in the corner of the square. Bai Wuchen's head was hung on the statue. His face was still ferocious. If the heavens wish to destroy a man, they must first make him mad. The ancients did not lie to me. Ji Tianqing sighed in his heart and quickly left the square. When he returned to the Tianqing courtyard, it was already dawn, and the dark red clouds of dawn were faintly visible in the sky. He abandoned the distracting thoughts in his heart and returned to his room to cultivate. Not long after, Long Yunshao took General Li and left the heaven-raising sect on the two-headed golden dragon, flying north as fast as lightning. Before he left, he summoned Chu Tiansheng and gave him a few instructions. However, he could only tell Chu Tiansheng to be on guard. There was nothing he could do. The situation in the Star Ancient Realm hadn't changed at all. In fact, it had become even more complicated. When the sun was high in the sky, Chu Tiansheng issued an order to gather all the sect masters in the heaven-raising palace to announce something. The sect masters and chief disciples had been staying in the heaven-raising sect for several days. They had nothing to do and couldn't wander around, so they had long been bored. Not long after, the sect masters and chief disciples gathered in the heaven-raising palace, waiting for Chu Tiansheng to announce the news. Chu Tiansheng didn't waste any time and directly told everyone that they could leave the heaven-raising sect and return to their own homes. He didn't say that the emperor had left, but the sect masters were full of doubts and suspicions. An hour later, the sect masters and chief disciples left the heaven-raising sect one after another and returned home. The heaven-raising sect, which had been bustling for several days, finally quieted down. 600 miles east of Spirit Flame City, in a cave filled with demonic and ghostly qi. The Blood Demon King and Granny Ghost had nowhere to go for the time being, so they planned to use this cave as a temporary residence. The two of them worked together to set up a defensive formation for the cave, and also set up 2 auxiliary formations in the cave. At this moment, the Blood Demon King was sitting on a praying mat made of blood essence stone. He was holding a crystal skull with both hands and was silently sensing and probing something. Not long after, he seemed to have found something and suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with sorrow as he muttered to himself in a low voice, "Blood Moon, my child, you died a worthy death. You have completed your life's mission. Don't worry, Father will not let you die in vain. Imperial Father will definitely avenge you. Ji Tianqing, that damned little bastard. This king will definitely seize his Kenshin bloodline and make him suffer all kinds of torment. He will die in agony in his soul." Not far away from him, Granny Ghost was sitting on a throne made of white bones. She was silently healing her injuries. Hearing the Blood Demon King's voice, she also opened her eyes and said in a cold tone, "Blood Demon King, in order to avenge Blood Moon and for our plan, you must capture Ji Tianqing as soon as possible. As long as we capture him, this old one can use a secret technique to extract his Kenshin bloodline." The Blood Demon King nodded with a cold expression. "That's right. This king has the same intention. Blood Moon has already turned into a demonic seed and activated the power of the spirit-devouring curse. In another half a month or so, the heaven-raising sect's 9 dragon spirit veins will completely dry up and collapse. Before we rescue His Majesty the Demon King, this king must seize Ji Tianqing's Kenshin bloodline. His Majesty the Demon King has been sealed for thousands of years and must be incomparably weak. Only the Kenshin bloodline can help him quickly recover his strength. Granny Ghost nodded slightly and said in a hoarse voice, "All right, I'll leave the matter of capturing Ji Tianqing to you. This old one will be responsible for extracting his bloodline power." The two agreed on the next plan. At this moment, the high priest's voice came from the cave entrance. He reported respectfully, reporting to Lord Demon King, "The 3 demon generals have rushed over as ordered." Hearing the high priest's report, the Blood Demon King revealed a smile and ordered in a dignified tone, "Bring them in to see this king." "As you wish," the high priest replied. Then, a dark red light flashed at the cave entrance, and the defensive array was opened. Chapter 412. The 3 devils following closely behind the high priest had strange appearances. The one walking at the front was a 3-meter-tall muscular man in black armor. This man had a stocky back and a bear-like waist. He was as sturdy as a bear demon, and his head was as large as a tiger's head. Just by looking at his body, one would not doubt that he had the terrifying strength to destroy mountains and rivers. What was even stranger was that he was carrying a black coffin made of meteoric iron that was taller than him. The 4-meter-long meteoric iron coffin weighed a few thousand kilograms. Its surface was engraved with ferocious patterns of devils, and it emitted a dense aura of death. As he stepped into the cave, he left deep footprints on the rocky ground. The muscular man followed the high priest to the Blood Devil King and bowed respectfully. He said in a deep voice, "Subordinate Hu Luanlai pays his respects to Lord Devil King." Hu Luanlai was at the 7th level of the Origin Core stage. He was one of the devil generals under the Blood Devil King. He had been guarding the Blood Devil tribe's palace. The Devil Clan man behind Hu Luanlai was in his early 20s. He wore black leather armor. He was tall and thin. He did not appear to be bulky. Instead, he was very strong and muscular. He was a standard handsome man in the Devil Clan. However, his face was a very strange yin and yang face. The left half of his face was the face of a male demon with a masculine temperament. The right half of his face was soft and seductive. It was obviously the face of a female devil. He carried 2 crescent-shaped sabers on his back. One was black and the other was white. He exuded an evil and seductive aura. After entering the cave, he bowed to the Blood Devil King and said solemnly, "Subordinate Yin-Yang Fiend pays his respects to Lord Devil King." The Yin-Yang Fiend's voice was also a mixture of male and female voices. It sounded incomparably strange. However, most people would be attracted by his strange yin-yang face and would overlook his strength at the 8th level of the Origin Core stage. As for the last devil general to enter the cave, he was a short and skinny Devil Clan boy who was about 1 meter tall. He had the face of a young child, and his appearance and stature were that of a 6 or 7-year-old child. However, his dark red eyes occasionally flashed with cunning and malevolence, making him seem extremely bloodthirsty and cruel, which was completely inconsistent with his age. He came in front of the Blood Demon King, bowed, and said with a clear childish voice, "Subordinate Ghost I greets Lord Demon King." The 3 demon generals lined up in the cave and stood respectfully in front of the Blood Demon King. The Blood Demon King revealed a satisfied sneer and nodded slightly. "Very good. You have come at the right time. This king has an important task for you." Granny Ghost's gaze swept past the 3 demon generals and finally landed on Ghost Eye. She raised her eyebrows and asked doubtfully, "Blood Demon King, why is this demon general under your command a little baby who hasn't been weaned off milk? Could it be that there's no one else in your blood demon tribe? Even a kid like this can become a great general?" Hearing Granny Ghost's words, the 3 demon generals' faces changed. Huluan Lai and Enyang Sha both turned their heads to look at Granny Ghost, sneering playfully. Ghost Eye turned his head to look at Granny Ghost. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he shouted in a low voice. "Ugly old hag, before you make fun of others, don't you want to look in the mirror and see what you are?" Granny Ghost's face changed, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. She shouted angrily, "How dare you!" She sat on the throne of skeletons and made a spell with her left hand. With a shake of her hand, she shot out 3 balls of blue soul fire toward Ghost Eye. The 3 balls of blue soul fire contained an extremely cold and sharp power. Only a Heaven Origin Realm expert could withstand it. Ghost Eye's pupils shrank. He immediately activated his demon technique and formed a demon mist shield to cover himself. Bang! 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 The 3 balls of blue soul fire hit Ghost Eye. His body trembled, but he did not retreat half a step. Ghost Eye's demon mist shield was still intact, but the 3 balls of blue soul fire collapsed and dissipated. Seeing this, Granny Ghost frowned and let out a cry of surprise. This little thing took a hit from this old woman's burning soul raging flames, but it's actually unharmed? What is his cultivation level? Is he also a Heaven Origin Realm expert? That's impossible. When did the Blood Demon City have a second Heaven Origin Realm expert? At this moment, Ghost Eye stared at Granny Ghost. His pupils turned dark purple, releasing 2 beams of dark purple light that shot towards Granny Ghost at lightning speed. Granny Ghost felt that the 2 beams of purple light contained a terrifying power that could destroy one's soul. She was even more shocked. She quickly made a spell with her left hand and waved the dove head wand with her right hand. Blue soul fire covered the sky and condensed into a light shield in front of her. Bang! Bang! 2 streaks of dark purple light fiercely hit the blue fire shield. 2 loud, muffled sounds rang out, shaking the entire cave violently. The blue soul fire shield was broken. Ghost Eye withdrew the 2 beams of purple light and looked at Granny Ghost indifferently. Granny Ghost also stopped and said in surprise, "I didn't expect that you, who look like a weak kid, could be as powerful as a Heaven Origin Realm expert. Not only can you hide your cultivation level, but you have also mastered the ancient Ghost Eye technique. You have really opened my eyes. I didn't expect that you, who look the weakest among the 3 demon generals, could be the strongest." Then, she turned to the expressionless Blood Demon King and shouted, "Blood Demon King, you old bastard, why didn't you remind me that you have cultivated such an elite demon general?" Blood Demon King looked calm and said indifferently, "Ghost Eye's cultivation level is not enough to hurt you. However, he won't lose anything if he fights with you." At this moment, the High Priest quickly explained to Granny Ghost, "Ghost Eye is the most outstanding genius of our Blood Demon tribe. He is also the Demon King's most valued general. Although Ghost Eye looks like he is only 6 or 7 years old, he is actually more than 30 years old. He has been gifted since he was young. His cultivation of Demon Dao cultivation techniques progressed at lightning speed, and his strength increased very quickly. When he was 20 years old, when his strength had just reached the Origin Core stage, an accident occurred during his cultivation. It caused his body to experience reverse growth, and his body and appearance became smaller and smaller. Now, he has already reached the 9th level of the Origin Core stage, but his appearance is like a 6-year-old child. He also has the Ghost Eye technique that can hide his cultivation level, causing others to be unable to detect it and be defenseless." After the High Priest finished explaining, Blood Demon King sneered and added, "Hee, Ghost Eye is the sharpest and most insidious blade under this king's command. A trump card at a critical moment. Moreover, he hates it when others make fun of his appearance and age." Hearing this, Granny Ghost came to a realization. She nodded slightly and took a deep look at Ghost Eye. Then, she took out a dark red wooden doll from her sleeve and passed it to Blood Demon King. The wooden doll had a strand of hair wrapped around it, and mysterious symbols and markings were carved on it, making it seem extremely evil. Granny Ghost said in a solemn tone, "Blood Demon King, this soul bereavement doll that I meticulously crafted has Ji Tianqing's hair on it. It can help you track that kid's aura. If you want to send a demon general to capture him, you might as well make good use of this soul bereavement doll." Blood Demon King took the soul bereavement doll and studied it for a while before understanding how to use it. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.